District Board of Education meeting. Today is Wednesday, December 4th, 2024. Can I have a motion to open our meeting?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? The Board of Education has a proposed executive session for the purposes of collective negotiations under the Taylor Law, medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment or employment history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment or employment or promotion or demotion or discipline or suspension or removal of a particular person or corporation. Do I have a motion to open exec?
Motion.
Second. All in favor? All right, the Board of Education will return at approximately 7 p.m. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Hendrick Hudson School District Board meeting for Wednesday, December 4th, 2024. I'd like to ask everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, tonight we're starting with our student recognition, and I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Trombley.
Thank you, President Mills. So tonight for our student recognition portion, we're focusing on outstanding scholarship in the world languages. To help describe the recognition and the program that recognize some of our fantastic students, I'd like to ask Ms. Antonetta Guglisi and Ms. Carrie Cristiano to come to the podium to talk a little bit about the program and our fantastic students.
Good evening, everyone. We were not aware that we had to say something.
I apologize.
That's okay. But as you know, the world language program is a very strong one despite everything that is going on in our district. I will always advocate for languages. And our students are the demonstration of how strong our program is. Not only the Italian students that we're recognizing today, as well as the Hispanic students and French students. In our case, we're honoring the Italian students that were recognized during the Italian Heritage Month. In particular, we're recognizing Luca Conticello, Castalia Litos, and Luca Tucci.
It was a beautiful ceremony at Somers Middle School in October. And it was sponsored by the Westchester Coalition of Italian Association, something like that. WHO, and I was like, what does CHOW stand for? Recognizing students across Dutchess, Westchester, and Putnam counties. So we're very proud of our 3 students. It brings us a lot of joy.
So Antonetta and Carrie, I'll ask you to stand, but I'll also ask Luke, Castalia, and Luca, would you mind coming to the podium just to be recognized? So as your teacher said, we're very proud of the representation you provided for Hendrick Hudson in scholarship in world languages and in Italian, and receiving the Excellence in Italian Award. So I appreciate the effort you've put into learning a world language and the culture, the study of the culture that goes there. Thank you for representing us from Hendrick Hudson so well in a regional performance, and we continue to encourage you to engage in your exploration of this world language and the culture. So congratulations, and thank you for representing us. So we don't have any prizes such as the ones you received from the organization, but we do have the prize of a picture if you wouldn't mind staying for that.
You won't be able to see you unless you go to the
So you are more than welcome to stay for a wonderful budget presentation. Or we know you probably have some studying to do, so you are also free to go to that as well. But thank you for joining us, and again, thank you for representing us.
All right, so this moves us on to the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as stated?
Motion.
Second? All in favor?
Thank you.
We will, do we have anyone in the audience for non-agenda items or comments? Does anyone have anything to pull from the consent agenda tonight? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as stated?
Motion.
Second? All in favor? We have donations tonight. This is approve a donation totaling $2,000 to the high school phys ed department. The Hendrick Hudson High School Physical Education Department has received an anonymous donation of $2,000 for the Unified Tennis Program. This is wonderful. Thank you, whoever donated this. This is fantastic.
Yes, thank you to the anonymous donor and your support of our children.
When is Unified Tennis, are they completed their season, or is it new?
I believe the Unified Tennis is in the spring. I'll follow up with Mr. Baker.
Okay. Because I think this is a new program.
Correct. This is the first year for that.
Awesome. So thank you for that. Do I have a motion to approve this donation? All in favor? Perfect. Okay, this moves us to public agenda item comments. Is there anyone signed up? Okay. The next is the presentation. But, yeah, maybe 5 minutes. We're gonna take a 5-minute recess just for very quickly, and we will be back. Do I have a motion to take that recess?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? everybody. Welcome back, and thank you for giving us that few minutes. Can I have a motion to reopen the meeting?
Motion.
Second? All in favor? Okay, now this moves us to our presentation for the evening. I'll turn it over to Mr. Trombley.
Thank you, President Mills. So as part of my superintendent's update, I will be going through our budget process for the, believe it or not, the 25-26 school year. I do have just a couple of quick updates that are not presentation related. Well, everything is related to the budget, but just drilling down on more specifics. In terms of a conversation that you've probably heard across New York State, in the spring of 2024, New York State Education Department began planning for an initiative on regionalizations of districts throughout New York State. And according to the state, the regionalization, and I'll quote here, is a systematic approach to continually improve schools and districts as an essential means for supporting successful outcomes for our students. Regional planning is a mechanism for achieving this goal. This collaborative approach provides a strategic solution to increasing educational opportunities for students and responding to pressing academic and operational issues in an evolving educational, demographic, and fiscal landscape, end quote. What this required is previously school districts had to complete a strengths and need tool that basically shared what strengths districts have and what needs they have, so that it's the assumption that you would partner with individuals that needed something from your strengths, and you could partner with somebody of the district that had a strength that you were in need of. Very high level initiative conversation, so we've asked the New York State Education Department to clarify some of this. Recently there was a discussion on this topic with fellow superintendents held at PNW BOCES, where we did just that. We asked the state to clarify the initiative. As a result of that conversation and some of the concerns and questions and explanation that was brought forth, and a public comment on the regionalization planning efforts, the Commissioner of New York State has decided to make this an optional program instead of a mandatory program. And districts will have until mid-January to decide if they want to opt in or opt out of that. My recommendation to the board is that the Commissioner is having a town hall meeting next week at PNW BOCES, where superintendents and 2 members of the board, and I believe we do have board members attending that, will hear from the Commissioner a little bit more details on what that regionalization effort will look like. And then at that time, we make a recommendation on if we want to opt in or opt out. And I wish I had more details on what it actually was. I will provide in a communication to the community a link to the state's website about regionalization, where they can explore that as well. Starting this week, our presentations, such as you'll see my budget presentation tonight, will be available via Google link in Board Docs. We had been posting them in PDF. So we will now shift the format of which we post our presentations and some other documents going forward, such as agenda, personnel agendas, those items. So when the agenda is released rather than PDF, these presentations will be working draft of the documents in an effort to be responsive to feedback and dynamic information that comes in on many of these topics that may impact the presentation content. As no agenda item is final until the board approves the agenda at the board meeting, it's my belief that this will allow us, or presenters, to put forth the most current and informative presentation or document possible. I'll ask that anybody who's doing a presentation, though, when the agenda goes live, to at a minimal level put in the objectives of the presentation, so that the community and the board has an understanding of what the presentation will be about and the purpose of the presentation, while allowing for the content that may change to be updated in a timely manner and not confusing people as to what's updated and what's not. I do want to provide an update on the cell tower on Montrose Station Road. So I believe that appropriate cell coverage is a safety item for our district, and the town of Cortland has been very supportive of working with vendors to take measures to work on a tower on Montrose Station Road. As an update we received from the town of Cortland, and we thank Dr. Becker, we anticipate the tower could be live this spring. The developer is finishing up the construction phase of the site, and the next step would be to have Con Ed energize the site, and then the cell companies would configure that cell tower, and we anticipate that that will be occurring in the spring of 2025. Yes, it's already time to start saying 2025, believe it or not. I'm waiting for my flying car. Tomorrow evening is the next Indian Point Decommissioning Oversight Board meeting. I've been asked to provide, at that meeting, I have been asked to provide an update on the use of our funds for the purpose of air quality monitoring at Buchanan Verplank. So I will share with them a similar update that I provided the board earlier in the fall, where I will communicate that we've completed the baseline environmental survey of Buchanan Verplank, and we are awaiting a meeting with the engineering company Langen to help us better understand that report. I'll also provide an update that we are in the procurement process of the monitoring equipment and continue to move forward on that end. Additionally, as I have time at the table in a platform, I will take time to advocate for continued funding support from state and federal entities. Now, just to be clear, the Oversight Board does not have the ability to provide us with additional funding, but it does provide me with an opportunity to speak on matters related to the closing of Indian Point, and I'll use that opportunity to advocate for increased funding from state and federal agencies, and I find that apropos as we're going into the budget season. Another budget-related topic, our presentation this evening will be focused on primarily the budget development process, and there has been an update in terms of the foundation aid formula. Foundation aid is also another word for the state aid that we receive. The Rockefeller Institute was tasked by Governor Hochul to study the foundation aid formula that has been in place since the early 2000s. That aid formula is supposed to dictate how we receive our state aid. It is a 314-page report that came out earlier this week. I have not had a chance to read it in its entirety, but I will, and I'll update going forward. The governor has mentioned, though, in coinciding with that report release, that she does not plan to include any proposal to get rid of Saved Harmless, which is a provision that guarantees school districts do not receive less money than they did in the previous year if if factors such as their enrollment change as part of her executive budget. So that's the Rockefeller issued a report, but the state government still has to act upon that report, and they can take any of those recommendations and reject those recommendations if they would like. So we'll keep you updated on that end. Ending with the best news of the day, I've had the pleasure, and I know some of our fellow cabinet members have had the pleasure of visiting the elementary school holiday stores and seeing an actual store that you probably would want to visit during the holidays. There was no pushing, shoving, haggling over gifts, angry people. All you saw were smiles of our PTA volunteers, our staff, and the students who were there. I just want to thank our wonderful elementary PTAs for creating this festive atmosphere for our students to purchase gifts for their loved ones. I asked every student that allowed me to talk to them or that needed help holding their items, I asked them one question. I said, are they shopping for themselves or their family? And it was a 50-50 split. So, there are no questions requiring follow-up at this time. I'm not going to tell my kids to go to bed because my son, I believe, is at hockey practice at Bear Mountain, and he has to watch this presentation before he goes to bed. So I'm going to ask the cabinet to do their updates, and then we'll do the presentation. Okay. So I will now ask Dr. Stephen Garcia, our Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources and Leadership Development, to give his update.
Thank you. Hope everyone had a nice Thanksgiving break. So last night we held our parent focus group regarding the upcoming search for Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction oh my God, that's my former position, Curriculum Instruction and Assessment. I thought that we had a really nice showing of parents, and we also made sure that the parents in the community have access to a survey to share their thoughts if they couldn't join us, and that will remain live through the next 3 weeks. We'll probably close it during the winter break. We posed 5 different questions, and I believe that we had a really cogent conversation about the characteristics, the skills which they're looking for in the next assistant superintendent for curriculum. Just in terms of like a brief summary, although like I said, I'd like to sort of gather all the feedback from the surveys and then put together, I think, just a composite of what an ideal candidate would look like. But in terms of some conversations that happened last night, some people expressed that the ideal candidate should have a background in research on children's learning, understand cognitive load theory, and also have high quality professional development experience. But one thing, there was a caveat, is to make sure that we don't want candidates who come from like an educational, commercial product background, where they've been someone who's working for Prentice Hall, let's say. They should have a proven track record of working with students of different abilities K-12. Also have an expertise in curriculum mapping and differentiated instruction. It's important that the candidates understand the diverse needs of this community. They should have experience in classroom teaching. And they're also familiar with literacy and best teaching practices. Ideal candidates should have expertise and also an experience more so in a similar district to Hendrick Hudson. They should be able to provide tailored instruction to teachers and stay up to date on the developments in the field of education. There was some questions and some comments about how much practical experience do they have as an administrator. I think there was a lot of conversation about actually being a teacher, right? And making sure they had classroom experience. And then I probed a little bit about what type of administrative, experiences they should have. And at least 5 years was kind of the common theme, but it wasn't specific in terms of they should be a principal now, or whether they should be a district supervisor. So it was, I think, kind of open-ended in that sense. We'll get more feedback from the surveys from parents, but just so we know that I'll also be having a focus group next week with the teachers, I think on Thursday afternoon, and then the following week we'll have a focus group with our administrators. They will also be provided with a similar survey in case they can't attend the focus group. And like I said, I think last night really was a nice conversation with parents about what they see as the needs of the district, but in this specific role and who would carry it out. So it was very positive.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia, for the update and also facilitating the conversation last night, and for all the community attendees. Some of our board members did pop by too, so thank you for the support of that. I'll now ask Vanita, Vanita Joy, who is proudly representing the Hen Hut colors.
Look at that.
And she didn't even plan that, to provide her update from the Executive Director for Technology and Innovation.
All right. Love, my favorite color is blue. So
Sailor Blue.
Sailor blue. Okay, sorry. Sailor blue. So I wanted to say it was a short week last week, and also only 2 days in. I did attend the CSI conference, the Cybersecurity and Computer Systems Integrators conference today, which was, every time I was telling Mike this evening, every time I go to that conference, I feel like I need to retire and stop doing what I'm doing because they scare the crap out of you.
Overruled.
I'm sorry, I said that on the microphone. So we did have the New York State Education Department, there's Chief Information Security Officer, the Chief Privacy Officer, we had FBI, Homeland Security, Office of Counterterrorism. All of these speakers were there talking about how, and actually Amanda was also there from Alteris today. So she might be a little too technical at this point because there was a lot of language, technology language used during the conference. So one of the things that they were talking about was schools being the low-hanging fruit when it comes to these terrorist attacks because, they don't go after financial institutions because, they don't want to put people's life at risk. But if you go after the school districts, it's just they don't take value in the privacy of the students and the staff. So one of the things that we did as a group shared with them was other than the technology directors, which are most of them who were there, this should really be going to the teachers union, the superintendents. I mean, Mike knows about this because he held the position before, but generally, superintendents, the board, so they understand the job of a technology director and what kind of support that we need. That was shared across the board from all the school districts. Also, a lot of the unfunded mandates that comes with the job, right? Like everything is mandated, but there's no money attached to it from the state for funding these things. They also talked a lot about the policies, like social media policy around posting photos on our website, and then a teacher or somebody putting that on their personal Facebook, like what kind of liability that they're doing for doing things like that. So there was a lot of policy talk. And the New York State Education Department, they are right now doing an audit. So they are calling, they said, about 8 districts every 3 months. So it might be a while before we get to us. But there were 2 districts who actually was there. They got audited. They go through the privacy, the security controls, and all of that to make sure that your paperwork is in order. You have written procedures, password policies, MFA. So I was actually texting Mike while sitting in the meeting. We need to have another conversation with our teachers union because it's starting to feel like more and more people, districts are definitely going the route of MFA for the teachers too, so we need to get there. So it was a great conference. I have a lot of materials I will share probably in the cabinet meeting as well next week. Also, I don't know if you know, this month is the Our Code. Next week is actually called the Our Code Week. So nationally, we actually celebrate at least an hour of coding experience for our students. Our K-5 STEAM teachers are working on, and also Nikki Stabell, our technology facilitator, is also working with our STEAM teachers and taking month of December content from the Year at a Glance and integrating a session of technology into it. So she's working with, she's going to be stepping into each one of the schools, assisting teachers who are not really crafty with coding, but she's going to be assisting them in those drop-in sessions so everybody gets the same experience. So thank you.
Thank you, Benita. Benita, before we move on, could you, even though it's not just related to education, could you explain the acronym MFA?
Multi-factor authentication.
So that would be for people at home if they put in their password and then whatever they were trying to access says, we're going to text you on another device to see if it's truly you, just as an additional security.
Right, and we have been, I think I said this before too, in this district since last spring, we've been getting a lot of attacks on users, our own staff. I mean, not just sending out phishing emails, but when we do visit people who have been compromised, we see accounts being logged in from Kenya, from Japan, Iraq, India, all over the place into their accounts. And what's happening is they're automatically setting up, not automatically, they're actually manually setting up a forwarding rule. So even though we're cleaning out whoever is logged into their computer, they already set up a forwarding rule from their email. So they're getting their email somewhere else, right? So we're not even looking at that initially because we weren't looking at the forwarding rule because a person had an attack and then a week later they said they had an issue again. So when we went back, and that's when we found out they were actually setting up forwarding rule within their email so they get emails forwarded directly to another address. So that's part of our cleaning process. If we get a compromised account, we go in, we have step-by-step instructions on, how to take any other person who's not supposed to be in that computer, cleaning them out. So it is actually a risk, which I always say, it's gonna happen, right? It will happen. It's how prepared the district is when it happens, right? So, thank you.
Well, thank you for keeping us vigilant, Benita, and safe at the same time. And Benita mentioned it's going to be National Coding Week, but today is also National Cookie Day, if anybody's interested in our fantastic food services staff led by Claire Carey. Every child who purchased lunch got a free cookie. So I'll turn it over now to Ms. Lisa Shupman, our Executive Director for PPS, for her update. Lisa?
Hello, everybody. New York State has indicators for special education. So one of the indicators is called Indicator 8, which we have this year, which is a parent survey that'll be collected and sent to SUNY Potsdam. SUNY Potsdam then takes that information, they generate it, and they give us a report probably mid October next year, sometimes November. Based on the parent survey, we get a lot of feedback. So that is happening in our district. An email went out to all special education parents this evening, letting them know there's 2 different ways they can get it. After the meetings, they'll get an email. They can either call or email our office and they'll get an 8-digit code. They can then go online and do it, or they can ask for a paper copy with a self-paid postage that go right to SUNY Oswego. So that's something that we are doing. Preparing for my retirement, Mike has asked me to do a needs assessment, K-12, for the special education programs. We have begun that. I'm using my intern to help do some of the work. So we met today with the mental health team, with the related service team, K-12, and talked about our strengths, our weaknesses, and where can we grow, and what else do we need to do to support students, teachers, and maybe families. We got some really great information. People were very honest, very thorough with their programs. I was very impressed with the feedback we got in that meeting. And the team chose their team members, but they can also go back and talk to the rest of the department and add to the Google Doc that we're sharing. We will have all of the teachers and related service, mental health, gen ed, and special ed done prior to Christmas break. Jess Knoblich, who is my intern, will be working with the principals tomorrow to do their feedback and meet with them and ask them specific questions that we've developed, some guiding questions of the strengths and the weaknesses. So I'm pretty impressed with what we've gotten so far. Were we on break last week? Okay. The week before that, we had our SEPTA meeting, and on our SEPTA meeting, we did a reading presentation from Into Reading all the way down to SRA. And the teachers are very well trained in special ed, and they have a vast amount of resources, and they were able to share with parents how they use them in the school, what programs are used in different special ed programs, and how we move the kids through to get to the next level. So I think parents were pretty impressed with that. We got a lot of positive feedback from that and a lot of great questions throughout the presentation. So that's what's going on in special ed.
Thank you, Ms. Shipman. Before we move on, could you clarify what SRA is?
Something reading assessment.
Specialized reading it's literally the old SRA that we used when I was a kid, when I taught. And it's a scripted program, and it's for beginning readers, and it's many levels. And we use the SRA reading math program too. It's called Connecting Math, and it is scripted. So I will say something, the kids will then match what I say, and then find the information.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. I'll now ask Dr. Ruller, our Executive Director for Curriculum and Instruction, to provide our update.
Hi, everybody. So there's a lot of stuff going on in curriculum and instruction right now. I'm trying to whittle down my list. We are coming up on the December early release. Lots of planning across the schools. I don't have Lauren's final agenda for her high school, but at the middle school, we will spend the day with our ENL coaches, and then in the afternoon, the middle school ELA team will host virtually 2 pilot presentations. So we have been talking to them about bringing in a new ELA program, 6, 7, 8. We've had a couple of conversations and settled on one term of agreement, which I wholeheartedly support, and that is whatever program we select must have whole novels as part of its instruction. So we whittled it down to 2 publishers who will, as I said, be presenting online that afternoon to the ELA team after they're finished with their ENL work, which will focus on really supporting our second language learners in the content classrooms, especially as it relates to vocabulary development. At the elementary level that afternoon, we will have Into Reading here for professional development. We are finishing up the last touches on the elementary report card, which will be sent to parents the end of January, the beginning of February. It's been translated. The 2 coaches are working right now on rubrics. We're working on a parent guide, and I reached out to the elementary PTA to see if I could join their January meeting to do a presentation to families. So that looks like that is all wrapping up nicely. We are also building a calendar with the 3 principals to move the elementary report card from a twice-a-year experience to a trimester in 25-26. So that'll change not only the dates that you all receive report cards, but also potentially the parent conference dates. So we have to get a calendar in front of us to make that happen. I had the pleasure of visiting a few data meetings at the elementary level this month. The data meetings happen with the coaches once a month in math and once a month in ELA. Teachers meet, I would say half the grade meets at a time, and that's for coverage purposes really. But it's intended to be the precursor to an MTSS referral. So it's a great time for teachers and the coach to brainstorm and progress monitor kids that may be struggling. Today, the one I sat through was absolutely amazing with grade 3 at Frank G, discussing strategies about teaching kids to round, and I think a lot of positive ideas came out of that session. So it's been really nice to be able to take part in that. I am also putting the finishing touches on the AIS approaching students, which, as I mentioned the last time I spoke, is a new opportunity for us. It was really a question of getting the staffing in the right place. I want to thank the teachers who have been just extremely cooperative about redoing schedules and trying to regroup themselves in order to assist in places where we needed more support than we had at that building. So that should be happening. We are expecting our first UPK visit from the state on January 10th. We have a connection. They assign you to someone. This young lady has been very helpful to us so far this year with lots of questions. She will be coming down and she'll be visiting the classrooms at both sites, looking at instruction, asking lots of questions about students and families and communication. We have a very large filing that we have to provide to them that really talks about the operational side of the UPK and who's responsible for what. And lastly, Jim Rogolsky and I are trying to get the task force off the ground that will look at course catalogs and course offerings and also scheduling. We do have a conversation with our scheduling consultant on Friday with the elementary principals, so we'll talk a little bit about what they may be looking for in a change, and then the same consultant will be meeting with the grade level leaders on Tuesday during our meeting time to pick their brain a little bit about what they're seeing as struggles in terms of providing core instruction, etc. So lots of things happening.
Thank you for that update. And speaking of calendars, I have not even had a chance to update Dr. Roller on this, but PNW BOCES has provided us with a draft of what they are considering for their calendar, which has to be approved by their board first. And then normally what happens is we begin to build our calendar for next year off of whatever is approved by that after our feedback. So we'll keep you updated on that process. So thank you, Dr. Roller.
Lisa, can I just ask a quick question? The survey that parents fill out, are the results available on NYSED's data website?
That's a good question. It won't be available until the following school year, but I don't believe it's on the data website. It's available, I just don't, it's not on the data website. It's on something for the, through a special ed site, but I can find out and send it to you.
And maybe we can post it for the community, the results, so people can see it?
So we'll follow up in a weekly update to the board and then with the location of where it can be accessed. So we'll circle back to our presentation as part of my update this evening. Greg, if we could pull up the budget overview presentation. Thank you, sir. And you can skip ahead to our first. So this is just the note, sort of logistical note. You'll see there on the front of the slide, we are implementing, as I said in my update, we're going to be posting, not in PDF form, but in more user-friendly to update Google Docs, for lack of a better word, so that if there is new information, our staff's time is not utilized to just have to continually update the site through PDF and publishing through PDF and then uploading. This will happen in real time. But we did want to make the community aware of that, so they were, and the board aware of that, so they understood the process. We can go to our mission slide because that is what a budget does, is it helps support our mission. And then we can move on to the presentation objectives. So hopefully, instead of just boring you by the end of this presentation, we will accomplish these objectives. The main focus of this session is to kick off our budget development season. And a great deal of work has already been started by our administrators, our faculty and staff. The board is engaged in this work session to provide transparency into our budget developmental process. As I alluded to before, a school budget is not only a balance sheet showing revenues and expenses, it is also a statement about our educational priorities. Furthermore, a school budget, I really feel, is a story describing the financials of our district and what it allows us to do. And tonight, the focus will be beginning to tell that story for the 25-26 school year. And we can go to the next slide, Greg. So I've aligned each of the objectives that you just saw to the slide that corresponds as we move through the presentation. I want to take a moment to just discuss how a school budget is developed, as school finance has some unique qualities when compared to a business or a household budget practice. For example, while most private and public organizations and businesses have approximately 35 to 40% of their budgets tied to personnel and benefits, the comparable numbers in public schools on average is more than double that, somewhere between 80 and 85%. So the first step in the budget process is for the Board of Education to work with the superintendent and appropriate cabinet members to set goals for the budget, and that discussion begins tonight. Based on those goals, the superintendent then begins to develop a proposed superintendent's budget, which is the phase we are in now. We're listening to our administrators, our teachers, and staff on their needs and wants while keeping various parameters such as known state aid information, board goals in mind. And tonight I'm going to ask the board to provide insights into the goals to help us begin to develop our framework. Also in early December, now through January, we will be continuing with building, departmental, and staffing meetings. And throughout this year's budget development process, we will have our cabinet, administrative team, and budget code owners, the individuals who are in charge of the budget codes that we have. They'll present at public meetings beginning in January. And these budget meetings will be presented various areas such as technology, our instructional program, facilities, transportation, special education, and athletics, among others. And what we're going to ask them to do is share what the district accomplished with the funds from 2024 and 2025 approved budget, and they will highlight in general terms of anticipated increases or decreases to what our best understanding of the 2025-2026 budget would need to look like to carry out the best program while maintaining a fiscally responsible budget. Another highlight of our budget development season will be the March 15th mandatory fund day, where we will conduct this all-day Saturday line-by-line budget review, taking the general information that we'll share during those weekly board meeting presentations down to the granular level with opportunities for the board and the public to ask questions of the individuals developing the budget. We will take questions, we will stream the meeting, and we'll have that video available for archival access. Throughout this phase of the superintendent's budget, changes will be made to the budget. That will be based on feedback, any new information that we receive, such as state aid projections, changes in priority-based decisions, and other similar inputs that we'll talk about in more detail later in the presentation. This accumulates with the budget into a budget the board must consider this year of adopting in April 2nd, 2025. It's almost June, folks. So if adopted, the budget becomes the Board of Education's budget and will be published and available online to the residents to help them make an informed decision on the budget vote. The transparency of the budget comes from the extensive public meetings that we just talked about with the budget as an agenda item. The adopted budget will be put to public vote this next year on Tuesday, May 20th for community consideration on the total amount of the budget to be approved upon. Meaning the detail that we will provide throughout the budget development process is used to develop a total dollar amount. That total dollar amount will be what the community actually votes on, not the individual line-by-line items. That is those line-by-line items that we share with you as considerations as we develop the budget. That is where the transparency of the budget comes from, because we are giving the community our best idea on what is needed to fund our school district. And Greg, we can go to the next slide. So we talked about some of those inputs that may change through the budget development process. We all know that a budget is made up of revenue and expense drivers. We hope to have some of our first state aid runs or projections in January. Just so you know, the state aid portion of our budget comes from the New York State approved budget. In a perfect world, various municipalities and entities would have their budget seasons line up. We don't do that. In other words, we are waiting to see what the New York State budget will look like to see how much funding we could receive. Their budget is normally adopted in late April should be adopted. I believe the governor proposes her executive budget comparable to the superintendent's budget in January, and then the legislature debates upon that, hopefully approving it by their deadline. I believe it's in April. But sometimes they're late, and we're asking the community and developing a budget at the last minute, not knowing a major input of state aid. So we have a pretty good idea, but that's why budget numbers sometimes change in this development process. Other variables are priorities that come from the Board of Education in direction of the budget, the district in providing what we think is best needed to achieve our mission, and also the community discussions that we'll have here. And another main input that we have is the tax cap calculation. We'll talk about that more in a later slide. So Greg, we can go to the next slide. I want to focus on this concept of transparency in progress, not finality. So I believe in being highly transparent, and sometimes that transparency can cause confusion because you will see this budget change as we go through the process. The budget we will present in January will most likely, and normally is never, the same budget that you will see proposed to the community in April, or that we will ask you to adopt, that the community will see in May, and that we will ask you to adopt in April. So we will have a page on our website that captures all the budget presentations, showing you various iterations of what we think, at the best of our knowledge, and capturing conversations that occur at this table to change that end dollar amount or the individual line items. So if you recall last year, the way we approached the budget is we, after the holiday break, our first budget presentation season, we provided what we thought our overall budget was based upon financial aid projections at that, state aid projections at that time, our thoughts on what the tax cap was at that time, our thoughts on what a number of the variable inputs were, and it showed also all of our administrators' wish list items, we say. So we do a zero-based budget. So we say, at this point in time, we've gone to our administrators and say, look at your current, your program needs and wants for next year. Look at our strategic plan, look at our strategic directions, and build us, a budget that best meets the needs of our students in accomplishing those goals. That could be a request to increase staff. It could be a request to increase opportunities for students to engage in field trips. It could be a decrease in materials and supplies. That is the administrators' code and their teacher leaders' marching orders right now. And you could see a budget, when compared to this year's budget, is much larger in terms of the percentage that we're asking the community to vote on. That is not the final budget. It's just showing you transparency in what we're thinking about for next year. So we'll have a discussion later on this evening about how the board would like to see that process work in a little bit more granular detail, but that's just the general approach, that we are transparent at these meetings. It's not finality. The final budget that is adopted will be on that April 2nd meeting. The transparency that we're going to give you comes from these meetings and sharing our discussions with you on the development process. So what will our presentations look like to the public? We're going to keep the same format as last year. We will ask whatever budget area is being presented to prepare a brief presentation in under 10 minutes. The schedule for that is on the adopted budget calendar that the board adopted earlier this year. And then we will ask them to share and celebrate, show the community what they use the funds for from this year's budget. We will ask them their requests for next year. We'll give a high overview of their budget codes. Do they anticipate a budget code increasing, decreasing? We will also we'll talk about non-salary items in these presentations, with the exception of PPS. So we will not be talking about staffing in these board presentations. We will start to drill down to staffing at the line-by-line budget presentation in the spring. After the entire presentation, we will ask the board the board will have the opportunity to ask questions, and the board will also ask the board. You saw a presentation here that asked you if we wanted to, for example, add a librarian. What are your thoughts on that? Is this something the board is supportive? And out of that, we develop our parameters, and we'll talk about that process in a second. Greg, we can go to the next slide too. So again, talking about why the budget may change from one presentation to another presentation, we anticipate that in our next budget presentation, we will be able to give you a more detail in some of our assumptions about the various variables that must be constantly monitored throughout our development process. such as our tax cap, our revenue and expenditure drivers, or those main items that really impact the revenue expense portions of our budget. Just a reminder about the tax cap. New York State schools are subject to a tax levy limit, which is often referred to as the 2% tax cap. It's not always 2%, and this is calculated by each district according to very complicated formula outlined in New York State law. Tax levies are the total amount of dollars collected by the district, and tax rates are used to calculate individuals' or household tax bills. The law does not cap an individual school tax bill. And the law also, when figuring out your tax cap, excludes certain expenditures from the district, including some mandated pension costs and local capital expenditures. These exemptions could allow for a levy that the school district presents that is higher than 2%, but still within the legal limits of the law. And actually, in reality, the law does not actually limit the tax levy that the school proposes at all. A district can go above that tax levy or breaking the cap, but it requires a supermajority rather than a simple majority. So rather than passing a budget with one additional vote, if we do go above the tax cap, you would have to have 60% or more of the voters approve that budget. So in general terms of major drivers for revenue in a district, this would be our state aid, earned interest income. In terms of major drivers for expenses of the district, this would be pension contributions, health care insurance premiums, those types of items. And as we said before, under the property tax cap, our levy will have a ceiling. Our state aid is defined to us by the state. And as the budget must balance, our expenditures cannot exceed our revenues. So that is our goal. So that's a little bit about the budget framework. What opportunities will stakeholders have to provide input? Well, we will have a number of our budget discussions in public session here. Our board meeting presentations will have public comment. We will ask the Board of Education Finance Committee where input is shared with the administration. So again, we're just talking stakeholder input here. That's not just community input. Our teachers, teacher leaders, administrators have multiple meetings with Ms. Figueroa, the cabinet, to help develop that budget. Our board meetings offer the public time for comment. We will have information sessions after the board adoption of the budget where we will go and help answer questions that have about the budget. We did this last year where we visited some formal organizations such as our friends at the Verplank Senior Center. We also held virtual meetings and in-person meetings where the community could come and ask questions of myself or members of the Board of Education who were available about the budget. We'll have those meetings at various times, morning and afternoon, because we know not everybody's schedule is the same. And we'll also have them in various modalities, such as in person and remotely, to accommodate different schedules. We will, during the entirety of the budget development season, we will pose a question to the community through a tool that allows us to gather individual responses to that question, and then everybody can rate the other individual responses through a system of liking or adding a rating to it. So for instance, if we were to ask a question, this program allows us to ask a question and say, what are considerations you want the Board of Education to keep in mind when creating a budget? And I respond, I want you to make sure you preserve the program. Other respondents can add their own thought or answer to that question and then rate other people's responses. So we can crowdsource community input on that. So we'll have more information about that at a later date. I believe that we are at the point where it's board discussion. So I'm going to give a little bit of framework around the discussion here. So we're going to ask the board tonight to give us some initial parameters about what you would like us to consider as we build the budget. Now, this is probably the toughest question that we ask you for this because, as I said, we don't know a lot of the variables, right? We don't know our tax cap yet. We don't know our state aid runs. We don't know a lot of the budget driver information. But the feedback that you give us tonight helps us go to our administrators with a mindset of what you might like us to consider. So are there any programs about our program, our staffing, our capital that you want us to consider? So just for some context, the final parameters that we had as a school district in our budget for last year, which if you are board. You can always go back to the March 27th, which was the last meeting before the board adopted a budget, our last real change to the budget. These were the following parameters that we had that the board had given the administration to develop the budget around. It was a budget not to exceed the tax cap, maintain all academic and support programs with two neighborhood schools, a pre-K and one in all grade, a pre-K through second grade and one elementary school for grades 3 to 5. You asked us to review class scheduling in secondary to increase efficiencies and reduce expenses. You asked us to maintain a pre-K program through outside providers. You wanted us to add 2 teachers, 1 psychologist, and an OT, 2 teaching assistants, and 1 contracted psychiatrist for special educations. You wanted us to look at offset costs with the possibility of tuition-based out-of-district placements, and also keep our students in the district. You asked us to increase budget funding for building maintenance, and you asked us to increase funding for substitute coverage. And finally, you asked us to explore options for improved human resources oversight. Must have been a point of emphasis. That was the final budget parameters. I want you to compare that to where we started in our January 24th meeting of last year, where I asked you the same question. We had 4 budget parameters. Those are budget not to exceed tax cap, maintain all academic and support programs through 2 neighborhood schools and 1 that serviced a pre-K through second grade and 1 elementary school for grades 3 to 5. You asked us to review class scheduling in secondary to increase efficiencies and reduce expenses, and maintain a pre-K program through outside providers. That was the initial marching orders you gave us, and compare that to what we ended up with at the end of March. So that's how the budget developed last year, just to refresh everybody. I know everybody remembers it. But are there any parameters that you want us to consider at this point in time?
Not to exceed the tax cap.
So it was proposed not to exceed the tax cap.
Not to exceed the tax cap.
I want to make sure our program matches our students' interests.
So I know you're working on that, Mr.
Yeah.
Nogowski.
I will tell you, this is a great start, right? Even having 1 parameter helps us, right? There's so many unknowns. A fear is that you also give us 50 of them right now, right? Because we go back with that in mind, and that tells us pretty much where we should be at that point. But if you give us just a general starting point, it is very helpful, extremely helpful. And as I said, it's not, I wouldn't say it's unfair, but it's a difficult question to ask right now because there's so little that we know.
Yeah, no, that was kind of my question. That was kind of my point I was going to say. It's like there's so much unknown that we don't know yet, right? Like I would want to see something that has sort of like a comparison for students and teacher ratio, and if we need to like change anything with that, but it's, you know, it's December. So.
Right. And just so you know, that naturally occurs through our staffing discussions, right?
I think it's even hard to say we want to stay within the tax cap when we have no idea what it is. Could be 1%, right?
Start.
Yeah.
We can want it still.
Yeah.
Correct. So
We could still want to stay.
Still want it.
That could be, so that's the parameter, that's
Right.
that's our goal.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Yeah.
well, just remember, again, the budget that we build now is not going to be the same budget. And if you remember from last time, and I'd like to run it the same way, is at the end of each of our public presentations, we revisit those parameters based upon the new information that we've shared with you, and you can continue to refine where we go. So if we, as an example, if we see that our tax cap is prohibitive to a point where it doesn't allow us to accomplish really strong priorities that we have, the board could give the administration, you know what, maybe we look at the tax cap in a more flexible manner. I'm not saying we would do that, but just as an example of how this process works.
It also just depends too on like what our state aid looks like, so there's a bunch of different factors that can change that thinking, but I think that should be like a place we start. Doesn't say it's where we're gonna end up,
Correct.
but we can hope for that.
Okay.
I would like to make sure that we provide the programs and the curriculum that the teachers want or may need with the changing dynamics or the changing needs of our students. Like if we're adding more AIS students or the newer things, do they have the proper supports in their classrooms for that? And making sure that we're providing what the teachers need in the classroom.
So that matches with what I heard Trustee Hickey say. Could I summarize and synthesize those two to say a responsive instructional program that meets student needs and that meets student needs?
Yeah.
Would that be fair to say?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
When we do the staffing conversation, can we also make sure that we have staffing in there in case mid-year the enrollment changes?
Contingency.
Yeah.
Staffing, yeah.
So, yes, so we did have a, do we want to consider as a parameter having contingent positions?
Yes.
Okay. So just for edification of individuals at home, oftentimes, so school budget is a little bit different than perhaps what many people are used to perhaps in the private sector, where if you see a change, you may have the ability to raise additional funds mid-fiscal year. A school district doesn't have those opportunities. Our revenue has to match our expenses, right, in the end. There is some flexibility, but we have to be pretty close to knowing what we have to spend our money on as good stewards of taxpayer dollars. So if you don't have X number of staffing positions in a budget and you have a need change such as enrollment or particular demographic enrollment, such as we see a rise in our English language learners or our special ed students, and we did not budget for those staffing positions, we have to then have a discussion, what fund do we transfer money to address that, and is it something that we have to do? So having contingent positions in the budget is an expense that is accounted for, and then it allows some flexibility, but it also must fit in with other parameters. Okay, so I'll have that as a parameter, the consideration of contingent positions within the budget.
Since we're talking about all our hopes and dreams for this budget, I would just say from my perspective, and obviously it goes without saying that whatever fits into the eventual end number that we have to hit, but facilities, you know, along with what we're doing with the bond that was passed and those projects, there, you know, seems like overall, you know, ideally we can improve whatever facilities are older, you know, make sure that our buildings are not leaking in places, and, you know, things like the fields and, you know, for athletics, and the theaters for the, you know, the arts, things like that that seem like they're the, you know, the leading, you know, visual thing for a school district. Feel like they could use some love in some areas.
Okay, so a parameter at this point in time to increase budget funding for building and grounds maintenance.
But would we float a bond for that? So we get aid back on it?
Well, this is the discussion that we have, right?
Depends.
I mean, it could just be things
Yeah.
like, you know, the landscaping around here that PTV does.
Yeah, I mean, there are some lower hanging things that we can do, I think signage and just things like that without a bond, but, and I'm sure once we get into it, we can see what funding there is in existence already that we can use for certain things.
I have one. If you're gonna have like a contingency plan for like higher enrollment and things like that, do you have to have a contingency plan for transportation too? Like if you have more kids start coming, and what if the buses get full, or you need to add a bus or change a bus route or something like that? That might have to be an extra cost.
Our busing, yeah, we put busing up in a separate,
Right.
it's a separate drop. But it also, I don't think we agreed not to purchase any more regular buses, now will be electric. So that's another.
We do have to have a plan for that. Although that's a part of the Rockefeller report, which I read the executive summary.
Isn't there like a conversation about the state covering the
Yeah,
cost
that
for it,
was
so
their
it's not
recommendation.
additional?
Nothing's
I
set in
think we have
stone.
some time for that.
So we probably need to look at what buses are retiring.
Right.
So should we say their parameter is consideration of possible transportation changes due to enrollment, but also a transition to an electric fleet?
Yes.
Yes.
And enrollment can go either way, so.
Right.
And it's it's been pretty level, but it's still been going decreasing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had more students this year than last year, though.
Big by 5.
No.
Yeah, it's very
I mean, it's very little, it's negligible.
And that's
It's 30
K-12.
students, but,
Because I don't think it includes our pre-K, right, the numbers?
Correct, they would not. But what we can do is we can go back to Bed's Day and do, because that's what the state locks in. We can go back to Bed's Day and see where we are compared to last year.
How are we going to capture community feedback early on so that we know that we are in the right direction?
Sure. Greg, do you want to go back to the stakeholder input slide? So one of the things that bottom Thought Exchange is a tool that we will be purchasing through our BOCES budget this year. It is a tool that will be new to the district. I've used it in previous districts. It's a little bit of a different slant than a survey. So it's that where we propose a prompt that individuals can respond to, and then individuals can, after they put their response, you can rate other people's responses. And it's a very powerful tool. Like anything, it can be overused, and it can be used incorrectly. So we'll be mindful of how we do that. We don't want to survey people to submission, and we don't want to thought exchange people to submission either. And this is a tool that we're bringing on new mid-year. I wanted to put it in last year's budget, but it was cost prohibitive. But BOCES has worked on a very competitive pricing option that is more budget, that aligns with our budget that we adopted last year. So it came to a price point that was a good place for us.
How do we ensure that the thought exchange makes it to residents that do not have children enrolled?
That's the newsletter conversation, right?
Yeah.
That's the only way you're gonna reach them.
Or that
You can't do it on parents'
aren't
Square if they're not
computer
on Parents'
savvy,
Square.
you know.
So we can,
Wait, roll it back. What are you talking about?
Your thought exchange, you're probably gonna put it on Parents Square and on the website. I was wondering how we're going to let non-residents,
sure.
or not non-residents,
So
non-parents.
Well, this is important. So there is a way for community members to join our email list. There's a community list that we keep separately. It's in Parent Square. It's also kept in iContact as well. So the PTAs have access to that list.
Can I speak to that?
Yes. 'Cause
Actually, on our community, there's a join list. So when they are joining that list, it's automatically updating the Parent Square list.
Oh, I didn't know that, that's great.
And it works because one day when I sent out a snow day announcement, I used the community list rather than the snow day list, and I heard from some community residents who didn't want to be
Woken up.
So,
disturbed from their slumber.
so there is actually, if you go to our communities, join our Henhunted community, there's 3 checkboxes. One is people who wants to be notified on delays and closures, and they're not parents, like the preschool community and things like that. The other is joining our alumni organization, and the third one is just joining our mailing list for everything.
And I'm sure you communicate that to the seniors when you go to speak to them.
Correct.
Where is that, Benita? I'm sorry.
So,
Because I would like to join that alumni one.
so if you go to our district website,
Yeah.
I believe it's under community, and then join
Great,
our
thank you.
community.
So why don't we take time? I think it's
This
important.
was great.
I think it's important. We'll have Greg
If
walk
you-
us through the click steps.
Is it, yeah, if you go to
Maybe can have that in
community,
your newsletter.
actually the drop down for, join our Henhund mailing list. And then if you click on that, you can put in your name, email, and phone number, and there's those 3 check boxes that says alumni organization, community, and it automatically updates the Parent Square information. I just got an email from somebody, every time that somebody clicks on it, I get an email saying this person joined the group, so.
Probably one of our, how many viewers do we have, right?
I can't tell right from.
No, I know, Eric, maybe.
It was 7.
One of our 7 viewers might have been. So, in addition to that, which I think
We're up to 12.
12. Okay, they heard I was telling good jokes. In addition to the Parent Square, Thought Exchange can be shared via a link, which we can put out on the website. We can actually, even during our presentations, if they watch the presentation, community members will have a QR code that it comes with. It'll be a link as well too. So we'll make sure that we have that available there.
Just to piggyback on that, because I was going to say that in addition to facilities is technology, like something like this that you regretted not being able to put it in last year's budget. But I think there are a lot of things that we could probably do to improve the communications with tools like that that we should think about during the budgeting season.
So consideration for increasing the technology.
Board docs.
Yes.
That's in our, that right now is in
should
our.
be smart.
I think it's technology / communication, right? That was like one of the talking points that we, on the
In the
call
meeting last
yesterday,
night, yeah.
that people kept talking about, is that we have to, they feel like as a district, you have to, they get a lot of information, but they still feel like they don't want too much information, but then they still want the
It's a very
information,
fine
just
line.
not as often. So I think there needs to be a strategy that's thought out as to how we can best accomplish that. I think the weekly updates are good, but I don't know, there's just a lot of conversation.
I can tell you the solution.
Can
I can tell you that a 10 happenings is the solution to this problem. And it just needs to be done. And this is the thing the PTA did for years. And it's one email, goes to everybody with everybody's information. In fact, one of the strategic plan pieces around communication was, and how we got to Parent Square was that we would have, because people in multiple buildings are getting multiple emails and multiple, to have one place where this all exists.
Yeah.
Parent Square was that tool, but it's now they're getting too many alerts, right? So
Yeah, that's
I don't know if Parent Square is actually the problem. I think it's the way that we are pushing the information out.
There could be some consolidation of the
I
information.
think there
that's
just needs to be just money in there for some technology and some sort of communication strategy that we kind of figure out.
We had discussed having a PR person at some point.
I have a question. Does Parent
So-
Square allow the creator of the note, message, email, whatever we're calling it, to sort of choose like an urgent message? So say somebody wants a daily digest, right?
It's
But
an
doesn't want to
option.
miss doesn't want to miss the emergency notification that may come out in real time.
We override that, right?
So
We
is there a
need
way
the
to
conspicuous.
differentiate so you can have a daily digest, so you get one daily recap of everything, but also don't miss the emergency stuff?
Yes, so on our website, under communications, there's a Parent Square page that talks about how you can actually sign up for how you want to receive the information.
Right.
The reason that we send everything, right now, we send everything like non-emergency at 6:30. Only because the first time, because everybody was not reading their email, the first time when we sent something out as a regular message, you can say like, I want to get all my messages as a digest. That means if it's not emergency, I just want to see all my messages at the end of the day, and you can check that off. But when we sent that first message, we got a lot of calls saying like, wait, he got it, I didn't get it.
Yep.
Well, he might have said, I want to get the message right away, and I might have said, I want to get it digest. So because of that communication issue, we just said any non-emergency messages will go out like 6:30 every day, so everybody will get it at the same time. So we don't send out anything non-emergency during the day. Emergency messages overwrites everything.
Great.
So you would get, if we send out a message in the morning as an emergency, it would go to your phone, your email, your text messaging, everything is going to alert everything.
No matter what you have, because it overrides your settings for an instantaneous
Correct, yeah.
notification.
And
See, I knew all that, I just was asking so you could tell everyone.
And meet the foreshadowing, maybe people's hopes that a message goes out tomorrow morning. But I need to draft an urgent message, correct?
So urgent message, and don't forget to click that guest button, because that's where our YMCA students and staff is. So just letting you know.
I would just say your Thought Exchange QR code, maybe you want to put in the Examiner and not Low, like the Peekskill, Cortland patch, because a lot of people who are older, like me, still read newspapers, and
Do you say like you?
yeah. Yes, I did. I'm embracing it. They still read the newspapers, and that QR code, it's a definite way to reach them.
So just to recap it, at this point in time, the board has provided 6 parameters, and I'll just recap. First one is to consider a budget that does not exceed the tax cap. The second one is have a responsive instructional / program budget that meets students' needs. Third one, ensure contingent positions are available to provide flexibility in the event of increased student enrollment and or student need. Increase budget funding for facilities or buildings and grounds. Ensure that there are funds available to meet the mandated transition to electric busing and transportation. And then finally, to increase budget funding for technology communication expenditures.
What I was saying was we had discussed last year, even the year prior, about bringing on someone for PR. That was we have our function through BOCES, but someone that could really help us get our communications in order and our framework and our logos and everything else for the school district. I don't know if the board is in agreement that we should look at that again,
I am.
just to review it.
And I think something to add on to that is a strategy, a calendar of how to, time certain things, in connection with what we're doing, ways to phrase things to the community and, to make people feel more included, or, it's so much more than just redoing the logos, which I do think is important.
But it's just it's
a
branding.
Yeah, how we can best position ourselves to, the family that's looking for a new place to live, and they come to our website and they, see we have this dynamic, website with, a lot of opportunities, and it flows through all the presentations, and it could only be, I think, a help to the board, to the administration, to have that sort of as a spine of the communication.
So an additional parameter of considerations for improved public relations.
It's part of the communications line, I think. It's like, it's part of that, I would think, right?
Mm-hmm. And along the lines of the preserving our program, as well as making sure that it meets our students' needs and their students' wants. What goes along with that is some kind of a survey to students. So we annually, it's just the way that it works out, where we get to the asking kids what they want for classes next year. Elementary is sort of static, right? Middle school and high school kids have some choice. It's been difficult the last few years to plan because our high school students aren't picking their classes until later. So then it's hard to plan for scheduling and then what is needed within the budget parameters because you're so late in that process. Is there anything that we're doing this year to look at that so that we can maybe move it up? And I know that's complicated, but in order for us to really have an understanding of what our kids are interested in taking or what they need to take or what our mandates are, we've talked about it for the last couple of years, moving that process up.
So we can definitely circle back with our director of guidance and our secondary principals about the scheduling timeline. I know that they've been focusing our efforts on looking at various schedule configurations, so they've been having a lot of discussions around that. If they're at a point where they feel comfortable with that, perhaps we can talk about the timelines.
Yeah, I just don't want to feel rushed in the end like we have felt, making decisions without all of the, we're not going to have all the information, but as much information as possible. And it really does come down to what the students want, right? A lot of it has to do with that.
So a global approach to that would be that as our administrators present their program budgets, that they also have available to them information on what they part of what we do is we ask them to say, what do you need to provide the highest quality program aligned with our strategic aims to our students? So that
It's part of that
that's part of that conversation as they build their presentations.
I don't know if this is something for us, but enrichment, I know that there has been a struggle, like, I guess, you know, the elementary level specifically for enrichment programs. I know there's a lot at the high school. And
Well, it looks very different at the high school, right? Because it comes in different ways.
Right, but I know there are a lot of families that are struggling to find enrichment programs, like, you know, like that, the after-school thing that wasn't able to happen.
Are you talking, yeah, because I was gonna ask, are you talking about like an after-school program or during the day? The school day?
Either, I mean, you know, however it looks, I don't know, but I know that whole thing that happened brought up a lot of conversation with the community about the, you know, the lack of, I mean, that was specifically after school. I know that's like a whole other, you know, can of worms, but.
Right, like, and historically, we had a Horizons program here that was targeted enrichment at elementary level. It changed and shifted and morphed into very many different things, and then turned into a WIN block, and then, you know, that was that Horizons enrichment program. And then the After School Academy, which has been done by the PTA at the elementary level. We can discuss, I don't want to give you guys a lot of
Extra stuff,
yeah, but
sure.
I think it would help us, knowing now how complicated it is, to Corey's point, having an after-school program that was run by the PTA and it is no longer happening. We have after-school clubs for our middle school and our high school students. Is that something that we can explore for elementary in any capacity at all? I know we were able to have intramural sports this year for our 6th graders, which was great, just to have a little bit of a preview of that. I don't know what that cost would look like. Could it something be done and looked at similar to a club situation at the middle school and high school for elementary?
Right.
So the easiest answer is yes, something could be done. It would take funding and negotiations. Is that a parameter that the board would like us to include as we develop the budget?
I think we'd all like to see that, but I think we also have to be realistic about the cost of it. So if there's any way to just get a general idea before we, I don't think any of us want you to go down a huge rabbit hole on this one, but I think it is important for us and even the community to have a general idea of what something like that would cost the school district.
Just because I know there was a lot of disappointment that didn't happen, so that's, you know.
Well, and people were, like, for years loved that.
But they're trying to bring it back, or?
Well, it's not
It's
happening.
complicated.
Yeah, it's not happening, so it's not available. But yeah, I think knowing the cost can help us too.
We're not gonna say why it's not available.
I don't even know.
I don't know why it's not available, it's just not available.
Right now, it's not, I guess it was just canceled.
It's just, yeah.
But it's been available.
It's been, well, we did it for 10 years, but there were some issues with the, we did it for over 10 years, through the PTA.
But not at every school, correct?
Yes,
I don't believe it was
BB
at
had it at, BB had it.
BB had a
had it.
sunshine club.
BB did not.
They did not have anything when my son was in BB.
BV had a
The
sunshine
sunshine,
club.
yeah.
BV had a sunshine club, Frankie Lindsay had the after-school academy, and Furnace Woods had they had a different academy. It was a totally different model then. We each had our own model.
Okay.
But
So
Frank,
just help me
so
understand.
because Sunshine Club is their similar program. I can tell you that what they ended up doing when we moved into the new plan was they modeled the Frankie Lindsay model
Okay.
that we ran for years.
Yeah, my son loved it.
There were issues around the PTA directly paying the staff. Right? So this is what I know. So they changed it and they were trying to use an outside vendor to bring in the programs for the kids.
So I just want parents to follow. Yeah, but I don't even know what you guys are talking about.
But so it became too complex for the PTAs to run. Okay? That's all we know. That's where we're at. So there are outside companies that come in and provide programs to students. That's sort of the way Furnace Woods did when they were doing this. They had outside companies come in and provide a program to students.
So we can't do that to help parents who are disappointed now?
Well,
I think
they
they
tried,
did.
I
It wouldn't be
believe,
us.
I don't know the details of it, except that
So just to-
if
just-
adding the vendor, it became cost prohibitive.
Just to clarify, because this.
Like, it
we're
was a
on-
lot
we're on
more expensive.
A district budget presentation, I just want to make
Okay,
sure that we.
I'm sorry. So
No,
I
I just
have
want
no
to
clue what
delineate.
anyone's talking
Just
about.
want to delineate that when at the table we say the words "we," it had been part of the district, but it was a partnership with the PTA.
Right.
And so what I'm hearing the board ask is if the district can look at, and I'll give a caveat here. Any costs that I bring to you are going to be highly,
Ballpark.
General.
yes,
It's very
extremely general, because this would involve extensive negotiations with collective bargaining units. So that's the caveat that I bring.
Okay, I would say put it, on the lower part of your long list that you asked for. If you have extra.
Put in with
Yeah.
the little stars next to it. as
Yeah, no, but it's definitely
wish
something
list
that's
item.
smart to
Yes,
look
but, you
into.
know,
And even if we we can't get it specifically into this budget, but just to
Sure.
have
And
an awareness
when I
of
say
it.
that, I mean that I don't want to show any disrespect to our collective bargaining groups by not including them in the conversation to give that.
Yeah.
That obviously takes time. We could base it on a model that currently exists within contractual language to give an idea.
Yeah,
Is
I think that's a good
where
place to
Yeah, I
start.
think that's all we kind of need to see.
Okay, so I will add that a general idea of the extracurricular opportunities at the elementary level. Okay, thank you for the input. This really does help. It also brings a smile to Nita's face when she says a parameter right now is increased technology, so. No, and I say that as an example because now as Vanita goes to build her budget, we debrief and we share these with our administrators and we say, there is a budget consideration here to provide more robust technology programs. So Vanita, when you see her presentation, I will ask her to make sure she includes that as an example of how this process begins to work. And we continue to I'll ask you the same questions, are these parameters where we want to continue? So thank you for that. So that concludes the superintendent's update and presentation.
So we are moving on to our policy readings.
So at this point in time, Cabinet, I thank you for your time away from your family and your input. You are more than welcome to leave, but you are also more than welcome to stay. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that. We believe at this time your services for the evening have been maximized and utilized. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, when we start getting into the next round of policy, there might be some we need you guys to stick around for, but we'll actually plan that out ahead of time.
Lucky.
Never too far.
Carmen, we still need you though.
We went through, we started going through them today, Mike and I.
We did. Just so Carmen and I started to take a look at one of the board goals of the 4,000 and 5,000 series.
How'd that go?
It's gonna be a long haul.
We had a lot of stimulus.
Some NeuroGo?
I had NeuroGo, yes.
We have a policy meeting next week.
Should we revise our fourth goal to 4,000?
I would only advise the board on your goals. I could not force you to adopt it.
There's some good Black Friday deals for pieces of NeuroGum.
Oh, I didn't see that.
We have a board check-in on our goals, the next board meeting.
Yes.
Exciting.
Are you? Me too. I love our policy meetings. I think they're fantastic. They're very productive.
No, the board goal.
Mike, did you try the cinnamon?
I have not. I only tried the mint.
Have you
That's what
had
I
the
wanted to
mints as opposed to the gum?
The gum.
They now make their
Okay, I just want everyone to say, I need my.
I saw gummies.
Okay, so
Well, she like
we,
adds color to some.
we're on to our policy readings. We have 17 policies to get through tonight.
We'll be waving a lot.
5, 6, 7, 8 of them, 9 of them, 10, 12 are first readings, okay? Just as a heads up. But you've all read these already in preparation for the meeting, so.
Yes.
Okay, the first one we're reading tonight is policy 100, non-discrimination and equal opportunity. This is a required policy. The Board of Education.
Motion to waive the reading.
Second. All in favor? We added, this is required language, the word citizenship, immigration status, in the first paragraph. And then there's strikeouts and updated legal language.
These were all reviewed with our attorneys too, just so.
Yes, and the attorney read through this one. This is a discrimination policy. Okay? I mean, I think there's very much to discuss here, because it's all legally
Can we
bound.
waive the second reading and just approve this now, or is it possible?
What do you think?
If it's required, you've done that in the past.
It's required by law.
Required policy.
Go ahead. You good?
Motion to waive the second reading of policy 0100.
Second?
All in favor?
Motion to accept policy 0100, non-discrimination and equal opportunity.
Second?
All in favor? Okay. This is the first reading, a revision to policy 110, sexual harassment. Sexual harassment
Motion to waive
against.
the reading.
Second.
All in favor? So this is defining, this is very simple, sexual harassment policy update. The language stayed the same,
We
but
changed the references.
we changed, yes, the cross-references changed.
To match policy, previous policy
Yes.
updates.
And this is legal as well, so.
Well, it's local, but we only changed this to make sure it was referring to the proper policy and proper laws.
So the real change, you'll notice, is going to be in, if you look at the cross-reference.
The cross.
0110.2 embodies now the ones that are crossed out. The one that's crossed out, we kind of
They
made
combined.
more changes in the next one. This one, the change is really what we're referencing.
We probably should go through all of them, and so that everyone can see the
Yeah,
sequence.
the other one's here. We're doing
That's next.
0110.2 next.
Okay, so let's read that one. First reading revision, policy 0110.2.
Motion to waive the reading.
Second.
All in favor? This is a required policy. We updated this one recently, but then some of the laws changed and the language recommendations changed, and you'll see where it's read, and we did some work here on the nuances in the language to make sure that we were as inclusive. And I think all the new Title IX updates are encompassed in this as well, because Title IX had changed.
Make a motion to approve this? Or do we have to go through all the rest of them?
I feel like we should wait on these and give them, it's in case anyone has, yeah, well, so with something like this, I think that give the community the opportunity to come and speak to us if they want to, or send us an email.
But isn't this legal?
It is.
So
But
it's
it
not
is-
like we can, I mean, we can always, if there's feedback that we need to come back and change something, then we legally can. If we get input from the community, then I would say we can do it. But if it's legal lawyer stuff, then it's not like we can make changes to it because we want to.
We would obviously run any recommended changes by our legal counsel.
And legal has seen all of these specifically,
We don't run every policy by.
but these ones have been.
Correct.
Okay, so anyone want to make the motion?
Motion to waive the second reading of policy 0110.2.
Second?
All in favor?
Motion to accept policy 0110.2.
Second?
All in favor? Okay, and then the next one is the first reading or revision, policy 100, equal opportunity, sexual discrimination and sex-based harassment under Title IX. And this is also legal, and all of the wording changed to reflect the changes within Title IX.
Motion to waive the reading? Is that appropriate? Are we ready for that?
Yeah.
Motion to waive the second reading of policy 0111.
Wait, start, wait for the beginning.
We're still on our first.
Start reading it. You ever
Yeah,
start
you
reading
have to
the
start-
policy?
that's what I was
Start reading the policy.
Sorry, because I had to scroll down to like the third
Oh.
page. The district does not
Motion
discriminate.
to waive the reading.
Second.
All in favor? Sorry about that. This one calls out, this one, I'm just specifically looking at it again. This one explains what a Title IX coordinator is, the grievance procedures, it gives notice, employee requirements, supporting measures that we have to offer, emergency removals and administrative leave tied to this, pregnancy and related conditions, training students with disabilities, and record keeping. So it's very thorough, but it is legally binding.
Motion to waive the second reading of policy 0111.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Motion to approve policy 01111.
Second.
All in favor?
I don't know, I think there's an extra one in there. I know, I was trying to count in my head.
Okay, this is the exhibit. This is the first reading of exhibit 0111E, sex discrimination and sex-based harassment under Title IX. This is the definitions of the exhibit.
Wait. This is
This is new,
0111 on R.
0111E.
Echo. Oh, thank you. I'm back.
Oh, definitions of the following terms are based on the federal regulations
Motion to
implementing
waive the
Title
reading.
IX.
Second.
All in favor?
And this one is more of like a definition one. It explains what all of the parties that would be involved, who they are.
Yeah, so we need to approve this, not that we approve the other one, because it's an
Yeah,
exhibit for that one.
Yeah. Motion to waive the second reading of policy 0111E.
Second?
All in favor?
Motion to approve policy 0111E.
Second?
All in favor? Okay. Okay, this is the first reading of policy 0111R, sex discrimination and sex-based harassment under Title IX regulation. This is the grievance procedure. The Hendrick Hudson Central School
Motion to waive
District.
the reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Yeah, this goes through the process that you would take, where you would go, who you would complain to, and then what happens from there, the investigation, and then how it's handled. So
And
it's
this
just a
is-
very thorough, it pulls you through the entire process for that.
Yeah, this gives the district a lot of guidance on how to file, what a grievance procedure looks like, and it gives the district guidance on that. Again, this is also legal, and this is new policy.
Motion to waive the second reading of policy 0111R.
Second?
All in favor?
Motion to approve policy 0111R.
Second?
All in favor? Okay, the next one is first reading, revision of policy 0115, student harassment and bullying prevention and intervention. The Board of Education is
Motion to waive
committed
the
to
reading.
providing.
Second.
All in favor? So this policy defines bullying specifically, bullying, cyberbullying, discrimination, hazing, harassment, and then it calls out based on, race, color, hairstyle, weight, national origin. So that's the it's the threat, intimidation, or abuse, the definition of bullying. Then it has bullying prevention outlined, then intervention outlined.
I see one thing that needs to,
Are you looking here? Where are you?
yeah.
Same area?
Same area.
This one, incident?
Or maybe not. Forget it, I retract my statement. Right, we can keep the DAC on certain parts, it's just the reporting goes right directly to the building principal. Carmen, do you have that one?
That's the incident reporting.
Yeah.
The incident reporting and investigation, do you see the second paragraph there?
At all times, complaints will be documented, tracked, and handled in accordance with policy 0100, equal opportunity, non-discrimination. And then the DAC will prepare an as needed, but at least annually, a report for the superintendent. So that has to be changed to the principal?
Or does it?
Well, I'm not following where you're at.
So we're on page 3 of 5.
Yeah.
So it's really a process that the Dignity Act coordinator could compile all of the,
Yeah, that's what I'm just wondering, clarification,
could
which
be
one?
done that way?
Yeah,
How do we want it, how do we think it's best to be done, and do we want to say the DAC and the building principal?
Well,
and is the
One-
DAC the building principal?
no, there,
no, it's not.
there is a
No.
district-wide Dignity Act coordinator, and then there's building dignity officer. So, what I would say is that this should be captured in our annual report to the state, which the building principals provide.
Yeah.
So that could satisfy that component of the requirement. So it used to be called a VADER.
Right. It's called the
But now
VADER.
I believe it's the SSEC, which is
Yes.
mentioned later in the policy. So that annual report I could pull because of that process. So it could be left in there as Dignity Act coordinator or building principal, either way, because the mechanism is done by the building principal being accomplished. It literally, if somebody were to say we're not following the policy, I could say just to the Dignity Act coordinator, go pull the reports from Borough for me.
So you're fine with it as
I
is?
think the wording as
Yeah.
is not impeding or prohibitive to a flexible process.
Okay, and then the next paragraph was added into the Title IX verbiage, and it refers to the other policies.
I was gonna say, and that was another new piece, is that the policy we just approved was added on as one of the cross-references for
Yes. Any questions on this one? I want to go ahead and...
I don't know if this is, I know it's a requirement, but I feel like this one, we might have more community members who want to weigh in or read this and process it.
Yeah.
I do know it's a requirement, and the wording won't necessarily change based on law, but I almost feel like this one,
Bringing it back might be a good
bringing
idea.
it back might be a good idea to read again and just giving everybody time to process it.
Right.
This isn't referenced on anything else that we already approved, right? Just to make sure.
It is their reference on this. Those policies are referenced on this, not vice versa.
Okay.
And if my memory serves me right, on that one we first were talking about, the sexual harassment of students was retired, and because this was
Yes,
with this policy, I think.
So we can retire that one once this one is approved.
But no, we did already, we've already, because we reviewed these like back in March last year.
Oh, we retired that one in March?
The
Yes,
sexual
because-
harassment of students, I'm pretty sure.
Because this one here, the equal
I
opportunity.
think that replaced that.
Okay, because
Back in
this is
March.
new, we don't have this right now.
This new one, section.
The regulation?
0115.
Oh, March, you're right, March 27th.
Yeah, we reviewed all these back then.
Yes.
And, yeah.
This one is in 0111, referenced in that one.
So I think if it was already approved in March, right?
We approved this one in March, first time. We're bringing the Title IX requirements.
Oh, okay, yeah, so it's still gonna be active, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's fine. I don't know, I feel like this one I would like to read again for the community.
Just for context, this Title IX is a federal regulation,
And this update is being provided because there is a change in the federal regulation, and this could change again
And again.
and again.
So we're bringing it back.
Unless anybody else feels differently right now.
People have strong thoughts and opinions on stuff, so if we get a chance to read it.
Okay, we have first reading, a revision of policy 0115R, student harassment and bullying prevention and intervention regulation. The board condemns
Motion to
and
waive the
strictly
reading.
prohibits.
Motion to waive the reading.
Second, all in favor? So this is the regulation around the prior, we just updated this one as well, March 27th. And this is all, again, bringing it back, you see all the Title IX adjustments. The only thing I want to call out here is under district level procedure, on page 507, under B.
Page numbers. My computer died and my page numbers are cut off.
5.
District level procedure.
Okay.
Here, we changed this. I just want to call out, what was it before? It didn't have that before. It was just as soon as possible.
Yes.
So now we're calling out the days. So the district level investigation should begin as soon as possible, 1 to 3 working days following receipt of the complaint by the superintendent or board president. So those days were not in there before. We added those.
Good.
We also added that the investigator will report back to both the target and the accused within 10 working days. So there's just, we went back and forth a little bit on this because that wasn't in there before. Now I think it's required. Okay? Are we gonna bring this one back?
Yeah, because it's related
It's
to
a
the
regulation.
Yeah,
It's
it's
regulation.
Got it. Okay, this is second reading. Revision policy 1120, school district records.
Motion to waive.
Is the,
Second.
all in favor?
Can we just go back, because you guys didn't decide on this one, you said you were.
We're gonna go back, we're gonna go back and
Again?
approve that one.
Okay,
The first one, right?
yeah, this, 0110.
Yeah, I'll go back to that one and then, I'll go back to that one next. So we changed here, that we discussed last time that we had added the employee notification of disciplinary record requests, that we had to add that in here.
Correct. So again, this was one that was just recently reviewed and approved for an update. There was a new statute that came down that says, which is codified in the red, that there is a requirement if an employee's disciplinary records have been foiled, there is a notification required.
Okay?
Motion to approve policy 1120.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, we're gonna go back to the first policy we read tonight, which is first reading revision policy 0100, non-discrimination and equal opportunity, the Board of Education.
Motion to waive the reading.
Second.
All in favor? So we're bringing this one back to vote on it now.
Motion to waive the second reading of policy 0100.
Second.
All in favor?
Motion to approve policy 0100.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, Carmen, you good there?
Yep.
Okay. We are at policy 2310, regular meetings. Regular board meetings in order to perform its duties in an open.
Motion to waive the reading.
Second.
All in favor? This one is,
This is the second reading and.
no, this is the first reading. Regular meetings, first reading.
Oh, first reading, sorry.
This is new recommended language from NISBA to define regular board meetings, work sessions, just more clearly. That's really all this was. It's the revised language.
It also, yeah,
So tied
changed
to
'cause
2340, right?
Yes.
yeah, and it also updated because I feel like that information was not correct.
Yes.
Because the this is saying starting at 7:30, so it gives us the flexibility to plan our meetings when we do our reorg meeting in July, to set the calendar for the year based on holidays and what we feel we need.
Yeah, this one was 9 years old and hasn't been looked at. Okay, so we'll bring this one back. First reading, revision policy 2320, special meetings of the Board of Education.
Motion to waive the reading?
Second.
All in favor? This is the procedure to call a special meeting by a board member. It would be 24 hours to the board president. This is the request, the board member makes a request to the board president, and all board members have to be notified within 24 hours. This is legal, I mean, this is what is recommended. We didn't change this.
No, they don't have to be notified of the request within 24 hours. They have to be notified of the requested meeting within 24 hours of the meeting.
Of the meeting, yes.
Okay.
This is part of open meetings law. Okay, we'll bring this one back. The next one is the first reading of revision policy 2340, notice of meetings for all regular and scheduled.
Motion to waive the reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. The ayes have it.
This again is open meetings law. Adopted 1987. It was 2 sentences.
It was 2 sentences. Now it just gives the parameters of how soon the community should be notified of the meeting.
Give it the summer.
We give them, yeah.
They call everybody.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll bring that one back.
The second reading of policy 2360, minutes. The Board of Education believes
Motion to waive the reading.
Second.
All in favor? We're bringing this back for the second reading. It's about our minutes and how they're documented.
Oh.
I'm investigating this a little bit, so.
Now, this is the one with the
Question
video.
about it. You guys wanted the transcription and stuff.
Right, the video.
I had a meeting and it got canceled because there are delay, so the 19th I had the question again, so I'll find out for sure. I'm pretty sure I'm right.
We can approve this one as is now.
Yes.
If we want to bring it back, you can do it.
You wanted questions on the
No,
video?
The video, if that could be a legally acceptable
But
as our minutes.
we wouldn't have to change the policy because it says that we can use it, but it doesn't mean we have to use it because Carmen likes the way
Well,
she
I
does her
think we
minutes.
do legally have to, so I'm just gonna verify that.
Yeah.
Carmen is placing a bet that I'm wrong.
Well, how much
I
better?
enjoyed the posturing that's taking
Yeah.
place.
Motion to approve policy 2360.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. We're at policy 14, guys. Policy 2520, board member training, state
Motion
mandated
to waive the
training.
reading.
Second.
All in favor? This just outlines our
Yeah,
required
it just
training.
talks about that you have to take the 2 trainings within a year after you begin your term. I don't know if everybody knows that. If you ever plan on running for the board, you do have to take 2 classes that are approximately 6 to 8 hours each, depending on that. So just note for anyone who plans on running.
And those are the mandated ones, there's plenty of
There's
options.
so many other ones that we do,
Oh,
yes.
We've been
the
doing it.
educational advancement opportunities are plentiful.
We recognize you in a board meeting.
Yeah. And then also that we will do, like for the board president and vice president, that they will also take a training for leadership roles. We got a nice dinner out of it too.
We did.
Also July, please,
Okay. This is second reading, so.
Motion to approve policy 2520.
Second.
All in favor? Next is second reading Revision of policy 2700, board staff communications. The success of any school system requires effective communication between the Board of Ed and school staff.
Second.
All in favor? So this one just more extensively outlines our communication with the school district. It should go through the superintendent.
I like the last line.
Yeah.
Hmm?
This was like,
I like the last
just
line.
got a work email, I don't want to deal with it.
All effective means of facilitating channels of communication between the board and staff will be explored in order to promote close and cooperative action for the continued improvement of the educational program and the mutual benefit of the school system and the community.
Thanks.
We wrote that ourselves.
Good job. You should be recognized.
Motion to approve.
The next board meeting, Mike will call it.
Policy 2700.
Second.
All in favor?
You get a picture of the gifts.
Okay. We're policy 3000, goals and objectives and administration. This is our second reading. The Board of
Motion to waive the
Education.
reading.
Second.
All in favor? This is calling out the administration and how important they are and what their role is.
And this was just, we had our first reading in November.
Yes.
Yeah.
Motion to approve policy 3000.
Second.
All in favor?
Today's Jay-Z's birthday, in case
Well, this is where we ended.
Okay.
Last time. Remember?
That's it.
Now we are on the second reading of policy 3100, superintendent of schools. This is a new policy. The Board of Education shall be a
Motion to waive
majority.
the reading.
Second.
All in favor?
This just outlines the initial, I remember the meeting now, this is where we ended, because the next one had like 30-something things for you to do.
Correct.
Yeah, so this was where we ended, because we were tired. This one just talks about how we appoint the superintendent, and then just an overview of the expectations for the superintendent. There will be another policy forthcoming when we can go through, outlining more specific details as to, I don't know if it was the regulation.
Regulation.
Yeah, it was the
I believe it's the
regulation.
regulation.
That will outline specifically
The
our
duties
goals,
of the
our
duties of the
duties.
duties.
Yeah.
So, and this also explains that the superintendent is an executive officer for the Board of Education. So, it's sort of like a member of the board.
Good last line.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Motion to approve policy 3100.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, guys, good job.
Is that a record?
Now, have we done more than 17 in a time?
Now it's almost time to get to our goal numbers of 4,000 series.
It's gonna be a long, yeah.
Almost there.
We got to do this with one left.
We're almost there.
Okay, we are moving on to board comments, new business. The first thing we're going to talk about is I'd like to bring to the table is a discussion of our communication with the community and what we do to communicate with the community, how we want to communicate with the community going forward, and discussion around our newsletter that we started this year. And I'm going to have to open up from some context to the community. Just bear with me a second. Because there are costs involved in different parameters. So this year we had, based on our goals, communication with the community, we had started a newsletter. And the newsletter, the intention of the newsletter going forward is it would go out quarterly to the community. Initially, it went out in October, right? October, the first one, October 21st or 22nd, something along those lines. And it went through Parent Square. It had our community meet and greets listed in it, some of the work we're doing, and also reinforced what our goals would be for the year for the school board. I don't have parameters on I don't know if we can look up who read it, how many people opened it. We don't have that information.
Well, Parent Square should have.
Yeah, we can
analytics
ask, we
to
can
it.
find that out. We can probably find that out. Can we look into that?
Yes, my computer died.
Oh.
Carmen, could you keep that as a to-do list?
Yeah, we could, so
We
we
can at least see who even opened
How
it,
many?
who didn't, right.
So I have a question
Not
about
going
that,
too
though.
deep into it, but.
Parent Square is gonna tell you who read your emails, but does Parent Square also text you the notification? And if it does, how does that analytic component work from a text message interaction versus email?
we
And
have
if it
to
doesn't
open,
track email, then it's gonna.
you have to click the text message. Parents Square probably has
So
gotten
normally, I
that.
believe the text message is alerting you that there is a Parent Square message, and we tell you to check your Parent Square account.
Yes.
It's
Right,
not
you
via
can't
a
read
link.
it in
No,
the
it's,
text.
And you don't click a link in the text to get to the
you
Parent
do,
Square?
you do.
You do.
And it brings you to Parent Square.
Okay.
Like it gives you like the start of the header of whatever is sent to you.
Okay.
And then you click on that and it brings you to Parent Square and opens up that, to that spot.
So it's good to just figure out if it can tell you
Mm-hmm.
even. Because if the email rate is low, if someone gets both and they click through the text and not the email, then you may get a false reading on the efficacy of the notification, because I don't need to check them both.
Or maybe that tells us that we should be texting our newsletter instead
Yeah.
of sending another email. I don't know, if
It
people
might give you
are
those,
quicker to text.
Anita.
What's
It
that?
might give you the text, the opening emails.
both, yeah.
It
Oh,
might.
and via text, right? And if the same person opened one versus the
I
other, so
think
you
it's-
know they got it. Yeah, okay, cool. Thanks.
Okay, so, hold on a second.
I have the costs here as well.
Yeah, I was trying to find the cost.
You want to read them, the various options?
Yeah, I'm gonna get to that. So
Okay.
we had discussed possibly sending out, in our communications group, sending out a newsletter that would actually be mailed. Now, last year, we sent out a couple of postcards. We sent out a budget postcard last year, and a postcard that was tied to our World Cafe, and our meet and greets. So we sent out 2 postcards last year to the community that went to 7,700 approximately addresses in the community. Those also went out via email at that time. So the thought was if we had a newsletter that was a 1 or 2 page newsletter in an envelope or potentially a postcard from the Board of Ed to alert the entire community as to what we're working on in our newsletter. So there's a cost tied to that. So we'd have to discuss the cost.
Sorry, nothing.
Go ahead,
The
sorry.
cost.
Yes, the cost.
Is that under the table? So the cost.
It's far. Sorry.
Corey.
All right, keep it going. What's the cost?
I'm trying to find it.
Are you looking at the email or?
Yeah, an email, because I have so many emails about this.
Here's the actions.
The most recent, the costs are, okay. The cost for a budget postcard, printing and postage was $2,217. So every time we send out a budget postcard, the printing and the postage. A newsletter, individually, 1-page letter in black and white. Doing that 4 times is approximately $7,000. 1 page, black and white. 2-page newsletter, front and back, color is $26.12 a time, times 4 is close to $11,000, $10,449. And to keep in mind that we have a budget newsletter printed, that is required by state law. I don't think it's federal, I think it's state law. $10,394 that cost last year.
And that one's already in the budget? The
That
that's
one we are
required?
budgeted for because we have to,
Right.
we're mandated to do
Right.
it.
And does that have to be dedicated only to budget?
It's not, have you seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got, I mean,
think
it's got a
great.
lot.
Yeah, so that can count as one of the 4.
Well,
can't it?
typically there's a letter from the board president in there and.
Yeah, I mean, that should,
So
count.
it's a man,
Yeah,
it
oh, you're
contains
saying it
mandated
counts as one
information,
of
but
them.
we take the opportunity to highlight everything that's been
yeah.
So
done
Corey's,
through
so
the school year.
to Corey's point, we wouldn't need this 4 times because that
We
would
could
serve as
count
one.
that as the,
That would serve as 1, so it would be 3.
I
It would
mean,
be
I
3.
think,
Like $8,500.
If we go with a 2-page, it's 8,500, the 1 page is,
And that's if we're mailing it to the entire community, correct?
it's going to 7,700 addresses approximately.
What I would like to know is there a way that we could send to strictly those that want it, like maybe our seniors who don't want to get an email, but they would like a paper. But then if there's more of younger parents who would just prefer getting a newsletter digitally, is there a way that we can figure that out? Because that would drive down the cost. If we weren't sending it to the entire community, you opt in to get it via mail.
But
so
can
then we're
we-
still
can
giving
we
that
do that?
option to people.
Can we do that with
What I'm
the,
thinking is that take out the parents, because the list is by registered voters, that's how they get the list, right? And
Well, it's not
there's
for the
parents
budget
that are-
newsletter.
But there's parents already getting the communications by email. Maybe we could take out the parents out of that list, I don't know, but it's going to be time consuming to take.
It would be,
But that's how.
because I mean, if I'm getting something in the, let's just say myself, not
You're
saying that
already
this is
gonna
what I
get
do.
an email, right?
No, I'm not, like, I'm gonna get a paper in the mail. We have so many people who literally will walk that paper from the mailbox right into the recycling. So then it's just a waste of our
Thank you for
money.
my introduction.
50% of people do that.
So I would love to send to those who want it, right? Who's gonna take it inside and read it,
Yes.
Stephanie, or.
No, I'm the 50% that throw
Oh,
it
you
out.
said you like to read the paper, so that's why.
But you know what, I read it online.
But that's what, yeah, and then those who would prefer to just be in bed on their phone and read it online, you know? Kind of like the best of both worlds, where we have it digitally and we also have it on paper, but not
I like
double dipping.
opting in, so you know that you're not
And if
increasing
people
to
are
the
opting in,
landfills.
then we just one by one opt them in to this.
Like, she just threw Parent Square up, where you could just opt in, and you could get the newsletter mailed to you.
We have to make these people aware.
Right.
so we'd have to send a postcard out. This is the thing, you'd have to send a postcard out to the whole, I think this is what I'm thinking, hearing everyone, not Erica saying this is what we should do. I'm hearing you guys. If we sent a postcard out, which costed about $2,000, just a postcard, we could send it out with the intention of asking the community out there who wants it digitally and who wants it mailed, and including that, a QR code for them to opt into our online, to get more community members online.
A QR code to opt in online, or a way to come and drop it back off at the office if you want it, like, for
Mailed.
paper.
Can I say, maybe we add the thought exchange in there too?
So
Yes.
That's
one
another
option-
double.
So
Like it.
I was waiting,
That
one
was-
option could be.
That was something I've been
Sounds as
yeah.
if you could do a couple of things with this. You could proof of concept test a longer use of thought exchange by putting a thought exchange out there as to how people would want to be
This is what I
communicated.
was just gonna ask you, if we could do.
So we would have to do it in a manner where people who aren't receiving electronic communications receive that thought
That's where you
exchange.
need it, that's, how would you do that? You do it with a postcard?
We could put it on the
QR
link on our website. We could
How do you drive them there?
drive.
The community that's not reading our.
The seniors who aren't on the
Right,
website.
well,
Yeah. There's a lot of seniors who maybe can't, that's why
So
I'm
it would
wondering
be a
if we
postcard with
do.
the link for
Yeah.
thought exchange.
Look,
And the
you could
postcard is
pop-
then gonna be a one-time cost that could bring down the cost of a quarterly mailing.
You could,
Yeah, like maybe it's just a sunk cost that
we
we
could
have
put
at
it
the
in a
beginning
post
to get
office,
the right.
right, a lot of the same people that we're talking about trying to reach probably visit the local post office, maybe still.
The
So
library.
you could put it as
One
a
postcard.
place to.
Library flyer with
Put
a
it-
QR code and put it in all of those
Yeah,
places.
you could also just, the other thing I was thinking is, if we did the idea of a physical print, you could have an opt-in, what we're talking about, you could then take the local post offices as well, and you gotta include Peekskill for the Cortland Manor folks, right? And then you could also put it in a couple of the local delis and in the district office and that main lobby, and you could put a physical copy if somebody wants to grab one. They know it's there, and then you're not mailing it to all sorts of people who don't care.
And they're gonna throw it out.
But you're also
How about your
creating
senior
this
center?
visual
I was just
representation.
gonna say, what if we can go
Some people
and
like
post some
tactile
things
stuff.
at,
I mean,
like Springvale, like go to the laundry room
Who's
and
doing
post.
We could do that, right?
Who's doing what, dropping?
And going right into Food Town,
I
state.
think we do
Right, we all just take
a postcard that goes out that has the thought exchange on it, and also has like all these other things, like, so it's a one-time
To get
cost
on,
to
how to
get,
get-
to just get it out there so that people know they can opt in, they can opt out, but at least we said, hey, this is
Right.
your opportunity to get a quarterly update from the board as to what we're doing to keep you informed.
Tell us how you want to
Get it in
receive
mail,
the next
yeah, do you
one.
want it in the mail? And there could be 2 QR codes, one to opt in for it to be on email and one for it to be a mail that goes, and then we can kind of cut back on how many people it has to be mailed to, and then
Right.
that cost would come down tremendously.
Yeah, and we could still do the,
But I think that's
I bet
Yeah,
we could
because
ask
we're still gonna do the
Canon
quarterly
that
newsletter.
goes out to put a blurb in it. We
Mm-hmm.
could ask Dr. Becker if maybe one of his communications, we could put a blurb in it. That'd be a little bit annoying maybe for all of the people that aren't in Hanhud to get his newsletter, but you know,
We're good partners with them. They often ask us to put things in our newsletter that goes out.
there's ways to get, I think, it out there besides like just a QR code, right?
Well, I was gonna say, if you're trying to reach an audience who's not tech savvy.
yeah, the QR code is not gonna work. That's why I'm saying like,
Each
that
thought
wouldn't
exchange
work.
comes
I don't
with
even
a,
like to use QR codes.
But now with there's some
each thought exchange comes with
When I
a
go and
short
see a
link
menu
and
on
a QR code.
Yeah, a short link.
It's a short code.
Just put a short link.
But I think we need to also include anyone who is not tech savvy at all. So providing a link or a QR code assumes they know how to use some form of technology. And I just think about my mom who is tech literate. She prefers she would be one that would want the paper in the mail.
Right.
Well, I like Stephanie's idea of putting something in the Gazette, the
Yeah.
Examiner.
That's
for
where you're
those
gonna read
people.
it.
Yeah.
I'm hesitant about sending mailers home because 50% of mailers are thrown out. And we do it. How many political mailers did you just take, not even look at, and do this?
No, but maybe if you see something from the school, you'd want to take a look at it. I think seniors are more engaged in that way, like.
I think that it also could negate the budget newsletter that you send out. Because if you're gonna send that out before, and then be like, oh God, I already read something like that. Now, when that budget newsletter comes, that's the only thing that comes mailed. I look through it.
So we
I
used
would
to get
never
that,
discard it.
we used to get that quarterly. We used to get a soundings quarterly as a community.
I know, and I
Four
checked it.
times, I never checked that thing. I used to
yeah,
love
I
that
love that
thing.
thing.
4 times a year. The end of the year graduation one I thought was always really a nice one. And we actually were producing them for a long time as PDF files independently and then putting them on our website. But we just weren't printing them.
That's another random idea, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's a small investment for us to try to see what feedback we
And
get.
engagement.
Like, we wanna engage people in the process, right, so that people aren't saying, oh, I didn't know that happened, or, wait, what are you talking about? I didn't know that was going on. So, listen, this is our way as a board, this was one of our goals this year, right, is to get more engagement. And even if we get 10 people that respond to it that wanna be a part of the mailer, that's progress, right? Because progress is slow, it's not super fast, not everybody jumps on the bus all at once. So I think we have to at least try.
Okay, so
That's my thoughts.
I was gonna say, instead of printing so many that you would mail to people, like what if you printed like a certain amount and just, instead of leaving like the flyer in the store or the post office, you actually just leave the newsletter. and people
Oh, I
can
thought
pick it
that's
up.
what we were saying.
Oh, is that what you said?
That's what I was assuming.
I just
Oh, I thought you were
I thought we were mailing. I was
Oh, I
gonna say
thought
like
you meant to put a
just like
little
every.
postcard in the store.
I think there were a
for-
lot of ideas flying around, but I
Oh.
thought you had said we would drop off, people would pick them up in the post
in the
office or
beginning,
whatever.
try, yeah, exactly.
The actual newsletter?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you meant like the little postcard to get it, like for
To
people
respond to the
sign.
thought
That's what I was
exchange.
here.
That's
Yeah.
right.
That's what
thought
I thought
exchange
too.
respond, me too. So,
Oh.
okay, so here's where
We're
we're,
gonna have to are you taking the minutes on this? Because
we're gonna have
we
to-
may need a recap
It's
of all
gonna,
the, no, I'm
if
just
you want,
kidding.
So-
then you're gonna have to decide
Or
on
we
what
use
kind
YouTube.
of newsletter to print, which is gonna cost money.
Yeah.
So,
I think we do the postcard. I think that's the first initial step. We could put the thought exchange on there. This is the way the board is trying to communicate. We want more engagement from the community, some bullet points of what we did.
and you can
Here's the
also.
links if you wanna, and then
Yes, and
however
here-
we get people who don't wanna do a QR code.
Yeah, and if you're
Yeah, I think
missing our communication, join our email list.
Yeah.
Like I think
Yeah.
like something along the lines of like
we want to know how you want to hear from us.
we're gonna find a way of
Like, we
something
want
that we
to
can
hear
probably
from
drop
you
off.
how you want to hear from us.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
what
so
do you
they-
want to hear
And
from
what
us?
do you want to hear? I think, to your point, like getting more engagement, meeting people where they want to be met. So do they want to scroll and look at something on their tablet or on their phone when they're in the car, not driving, you know, using the bathroom, in bed, like those kind of things? Or do you want the paper that you're reading, you know? Because we want them.
So you would do
Sorry.
a
To hear from
thought
us.
exchange?
So the key point of the thought exchange would be developing a brief prompt that people then respond to, and they have, so.
How do you want to be communicated with?
So it's how would, I'm hearing,
How do you wanna
how
hear
would
from
you
us?
like to communicate with the Board of Education and the school district? And what topics would you like to receive in those communications?
Yes.
Okay, so that sounds like a postcard to the community. Our plan was to send a newsletter in January. I think we should still send a newsletter in
Yeah.
January.
So the only thing I was gonna say about that is we need to figure out the kinks of how it looks on, I mean, the newsletter that you do from the district is, you know, looks perfect and laid out well, and the one that we did not format well. Most of it didn't. So we just need to work on that with, either with Josh or we just needed to use a different template, or.
It wasn't formatted properly, and I think it's just limitations of parents were.
Yeah.
Comes
I
a
mean,
certain can.
The easy solution would be just click here and then it would come out on a PDF that's already formatted, but I know that people don't wanna click through, like, you'll lose people already who don't wanna click.
Can you get their template and just build it on their template?
They have like a bunch of templates and
It's not user
we
friendly.
did that, but
And then when you back it back in, it falls apart.
exactly.
It's good when he does.
Right, so, yeah,
So you just use
I think we
his
just need to.
I mean, he just
have
does it for us.
It was, we wanted ours,
yes.
well, we wanted ours to look a little different, right? So Corey designed a heading for us, like a header for us at the top of it, and then we actually added icons, and for some reason the icons didn't come through the same as like a photo does. So, I don't know.
I'm sure there's an easy way to fix that.
Yeah, it just
Let's
wasn't.
get the tech people involved.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure we
Yeah.
can figure it out.
All right, I think we
Yeah,
have like
there's some
a
limitations to the,
So we're all in agreement on just moving forward for now?
And can we bring back the results of the thought exchange
Yes,
to the
okay.
community?
Yeah.
Okay,
That'll probably be in January,
yeah.
okay?
So we're in the process of setting up our thought exchange account. I'll keep the board updated on that because that does involve, they assign you a dedicated individual who helps you design the prompts and read the feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And does each person have to sign up for an account for Thought? Right, okay, that's good.
Okay, thank you guys for the great conversation. Yes, go ahead.
So we've, just as a update to the board, we received a number of inquiries about New York State allows certain exemptions for municipalities and school districts in terms of not exempting you from paying taxes, but exempting a portion of your taxes from being included in the overall tax rate. And if I'm saying that incorrectly, it allows exemptions that you can claim on your taxes for the school district and the municipality. One of those types of exemptions is the veterans exemption. We received some community inquiry as to would the Hendrick Hudson School Board consider a veterans exemption. So we had in our plans prepared to have this discussion occur later in the spring. And recently I met with the town of Cortland, and they informed me that their time for us as a school district to inform them that we would be participating in this, to allow a veterans exemption, the earliest would be May 1st, and that if we do go through that process, that would allow for the 26-27 school year for the tax rate. So that's the timing that goes through. And in order for the board to go through the process of, if they decide to go for a veterans exemption, there is a process where you have to have a public hearing and a public comment session. So we're waiting for the timing back from our legal counsel on what that would look like. The long and short for this evening is that I would recommend that we move up the discussion of that to a January meeting rather than an April meeting.
Oh, does the community vote on that?
The board, they have a public hearing and a public comment session, but the board is responsible for.
Public hearing, we're gonna have, so if we do decide to go that route, we're going to likely need a postcard just for that, because when you have a public hearing on something like that, you really need to publicize it through the mail to the community. The last few times we have done that, I think it really has helped get people, so. That's a big topic. It can't go out just via email, but we'll have a better answer for that after this process.
When we are doing the presentation, will we have the information of like how many approximately this impacts within our community?
In terms of veterans?
Yes.
So yes, the town of Cortland, and we'd have to reach out to Peekskill as well. The town of Cortland has already done initial estimates for us. There's a lot of estimates that go into this, right? Because there's various types of veterans exemptions. I'll speak from personal experience. There are three main types of exemptions to consider. There's veteran, combat veteran, and disabled veteran. I actually qualify for all three of those in my school district and municipality. So you have to, and the town of Cortland has done the work of, if the maximum number of people who may qualify for that take it, because that's another thing. The veterans have to apply for it, and you don't know how many of them will through their tax municipality. So you estimate if the max do that, because that then will give you an estimated amount of the tax. The amount of tax that's collected does not change. It just simply changes how it's spread out based upon those exemptions. So you have to sort of plan for the max, and you will never know until your first couple years of doing it what the financial impact is on the actual taxes.
Do other local school districts already have it around us?
Yes.
Could we maybe look at some of their data? Not just to maybe
In terms of the
what it's cost them.
We could. I don't think it's comparable because the numbers are specific to our tax roll, right?
Okay.
I went through this in a previous district, and it really was specific to that municipality. What we can share is that we are, I believe, the only school district that does not participate in this.
On any level?
Correct.
Because
there was like from local, like you're talking local, right? Or is it?
It's actually within the county.
Okay.
Wait, we're the only district in all of Westchester County?
I will reconfirm
You
that.
don't have to make an absolute statement, but one of the only districts in all of Westchester County?
Sorry, I don't understand.
We don't need
it.
The world of technology. So we
just
definitely
bring it
will
up
come to the
earlier,
table with
John.
all the information for the board at that meeting, but I'm just suggesting we move up our calendar of topics.
And what
When do
surrounding
you want to do
communities
it?
are using
What
at each
meeting,
level, right?
What meeting do you want to do this at?
So currently, right now, I recommended January. The meetings, topics in January that we have, it's 2025. We have January 8th, where we're going to hold the meeting at the high school. We're going to do a curriculum update. And then the January 22nd was going to be a budget update. That was our first budget presentation.
Can we do the first one where, so not to interfere with our budget conversation?
Are they gonna be able to have, do we have to do like?
There's some prep work.
Yeah, I was like,
There's
I
some
wanna,
prep.
I wanna make sure we give people enough time to get those out, make sure they can participate. We don't wanna just.
No, it's just a meeting, not the forum. It's just saying we're
Oh,
gonna bring
it's
it up
just
at
our
our
initial-
board.
Just our
initial
No,
meeting.
it's
There
just
would be
for our
prep
board
work
meeting.
there would be prep work with the holidays coming up that
Okay.
You may not have time
Okay.
to get to,
May I
but
push out first week of February, first meeting in
I would
February?
recommend either the 22nd or the February 5th.
February 5th.
February 5th.
Let's add that, I think that's.
What else do we have on February 5th?
That would be a budget discussion and a K through 12 counseling program update.
And there was only one thing on the 22nd?
22nd is budget. Yes, correct. It's operations and maintenance and athletics.
So why don't we do the 22nd? Because
Operations, maintenance, and athletics.
Oh, okay. No.
they were quick the last year.
They were quick.
Okay, let's aim for the 22nd. I just want to give you enough time.
Thank you.
We have to get a form in after that if we choose to go forward with it and then have it by May 1st.
And we're receiving from legal counsel the specific notice of the hearing and all that information.
Yeah.
All right. So that's all I have.
Okay. Any other new business? Okay, so we're on committee reports? Does anyone have any, I have a committee report. Anyone else have a committee report?
I just have some West Putt advocacy
perfect.
info, but I just put my computer away.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. I forgot that we were doing that at the end.
That's it.
And I can actually send out to everybody the issues that they have aligned on to advocate for, rather than like reading them out or whatnot. But the 2024-25 legislative priorities from West Putt, based on all of the meetings that we had with all the, Westchester and Putnam boards, I can just send it out to everybody rather than reading it out because it's late. And then the other big thing that we talked about was the foundation aid. It had just come out on Monday.
It's the formula.
The Rockefeller report.
The report.
Yes.
I read that.
So that's the active one.
And they were talking a lot about all of the things, and it was too new at that point for people to really know what was in it, but people did not seem very happy overall. It seemed like they're advocating for a lot of big things. There were some really good things. When you said earlier that the governor, did she say after that came out that she wouldn't
Correct.
get rid of the
Within the
safe
next,
har-
I believe it was in the past 24 hours, a spokesperson for the governor. had
Because that was
said-
one of their recommendations, was to get rid of that.
That's only for this year, though, correct?
Well,
Well,
no, it's
the
for
thought
moving
process
forward.
would be to change the overall formula, which
Right,
could
yeah.
change from year to, so that,
The hold harmless.
The whole, yeah.
right. So the hold harmless is
They wanted
currently
to
in the
eliminate
formula, right?
Right.
And the thought process was, the recommendation was to pull that.
Correct.
To
Right.
remove hold harmless. But the governor has said she does not anticipate supporting any measure that would remove hold harmless.
Yeah, there were a lot of things. If you do look at the report, the executive summary is very helpful to just get an overall idea of, some of the ideas that are in there. But it was a deep dive into things I never thought I would be talking about, but really interesting. Got people very heated.
And just so everyone knows, that's between the board and at home.
Yeah.
It's the Westchester School Board Association has an advocacy committee that Corey is one of our representatives on. And that compromises school board members from all the districts in Westchester and Putnam County. So it's usually it's a vast group, and it's different school districts. So
Then the interesting thing about it is it's so vastly different in terms of socioeconomics. Like there's, like somewhat rural schools, and there are, the schools in lower Westchester. The superintendent from Harrison was on, and he was had a lot of really good insights. They talked about, in the report, they talked about changing a lot about how they distribute money to like the low need schools versus the medium and the high need schools. And, expectantly, the low need schools are worrying that they're gonna lose a lot of their aid. So I think that's probably a big thing that's gonna be discussed.
it's based on the different.
Goes by the wealth
Based on
ratio.
the wealth ratio, exactly.
which also means that their taxpayers will end up having to pay more proportionately. And then you have the other piece of this, which is the tax cap and the supermajority for these other, for these school districts. So it's
they were talking about eliminating, like, they have a minimum amount that they give per child. I think, like, I don't know what the number is, but they were saying, they were recommending to eliminate that, which saved $41 million, and then to disperse the $41 million to the more high needs schools. That's one of the things that they talked about. So anyway, it's interesting. I'll send everybody the flyer that they shared.
Thank you for sharing.
Yes.
And attending. Anyone else have any committee updates? Yeah, I have a committee update. So just for some background, and Mike, I'd like Mr. Trombe to add to this if he can. So just for more background. So Amelia and I are part, and Mike are part of a task force that it started out, it's the teachers union, the district, the board, the Hen Hud advocacy group, and Beth Gruber is there representing the district, but also HHCF as well. So it's a broad group, and we came together to discuss what can we do as a group, because we've all been working in our own areas, right? Each of us have been going to our state legislator. We've been trying to get meetings with different people. We've had really great success. Pete Harcum has met with all of us. Each of these groups, like individually. So has Dana Levenberg. So we're trying to. We had a discussion about bringing all of us together in a united voice to help not the community, but get support from our state legislators, maybe get in front of the governor, maybe even go to the federal government and get some support for us because of the situation that we're in with the closure and the endpoint and the loss of the tax revenue. We know that the cessation fund is here, but every year it goes down incrementally, and that will run out. So what we have, where we are today, is we drafted a letter, the task force. Everyone on the board has had an opportunity to read that, just for everyone to know. The HHEA has contributed to the letter. All the SEPTA PTA advocacy, the high school PTA, the elementary school PTA, and the middle school PTA executive boards have all agreed on this, presenting this letter that was written. So this letter is written. So we have basically unanimous support of the letter. And the idea is that Mike, who has a seat at the table tomorrow night at the Indian Point Department of Public Service meeting, the DOB meeting tomorrow, will be able to read this letter and mention, he'll read the letter with the preface of, this is our united team, right? We're all the effort that we're making to try to get some more support. And this has kind of been like a more quiet topic over the last, we've been trying quietly. I don't think that we've been to the DOB meeting asking or bringing this there. It also was mentioned by some of our representatives that we should try to get more parents to come to these meetings on behalf of the school district to help get them some traction on getting us further funding. So this is a first step in that. It's a draft letter. I would like, if you guys are okay with it, I'd like to read it for the public so they can understand where we're coming from. It should not take long, it's very quick. So that they understand where our united message is coming from, what we're asking for, and Mike will read this tomorrow as well as present at that meeting, which is tomorrow night at the town of Portland at 6 p.m.? 6 p.m. It's supposed to be 6 to 8:30, but it's never 6 to 8:30, and it's also available to watch online. So, okay, here it goes. For decades, our community has borne the brunt of the dangers of having the Indian Point nuclear power plant in our backyard. It has been almost 8 years since Entergy announced the plant's closure and 3 years since the reactor's powered down. However, the repercussions from the closing continue to ripple throughout our community and region. The Hendrick-Hudson School District provides a myriad of programs and services that reach all sectors of our student population and their families, and is the largest employer in our area. The loss of nearly 1/3 of our annual revenue stream endangers everything for which we strive. The federal government has no realistic plans to deal with the spent fuel rods sitting on the effigy pad, so our community is tasked with storing them tax-free, which delays our ability to reuse the land. It is possible that we may never be able to use this land for other purposes given the lack of a solution for nuclear waste transport and storage. Furthermore, we have tritiated water in the spent fuel pools, soil contamination, and a natural gas pipeline that runs through the property. A massive revenue generating property is now inert, but the dangers it holds for our community still remain. We are grateful for the $60 million in relief funding that has been earmarked thus far, but it is not sufficient. The money paid out by the Cessation Mitigation Fund over its qualifying period of 8 years post-closure is equivalent to just 2 years of Indian Point pilot revenue. The timeline of the CMF is woefully inadequate, especially when the delays in decommissioning are also considered. Additionally, idiosyncrasies in the foundation aid formula mean that the funding we receive from the state is delayed by 2 to 3 years. We believe a higher level of both federal and state funding spread out over a longer timeline is more appropriate and will allow us to raise taxes more gradually and create long-term plans for revenue stabilization. 8 years is the blink of an eye in terms of government planning and not nearly long enough to ask our community to make up for 30% of its annual revenue, the amount that we have lost due to the closure of the plant. Our district has done its best to decrease expenses by evaluating program and services to find efficiencies and to make reductions where appropriate, but continuing these cost-cutting measures will shortly become extremely detrimental to our schools, negatively impacting the quality of the education we provide unless a better revenue solution can be found. We may soon be facing the types of cuts that will result in our district becoming less competitive, which may also potentially result in the decrease of our local property values. If the Hendrick Hudson School District does not receive further financial assistance, taxes may need to rise by more than 30% over just 5 years to maintain the district's budget, or else we will be forced to drastically cut personnel and programs. Due to New York State 2% tax cap and inflation, it will all but be possible to raise taxes this quickly, and being forced to cut staff and reduce learning opportunities will have a devastating effect in our schools and community. Our children and our families cannot wait. We are a vital part of the community, providing an essential, accessible, common meeting place for theater, music, sports, learning, and community service. We need your help to increase our funding stream so that we can continue to serve our families and our community and remain one of the finest school districts in New York State. We respectfully request meetings with those individuals and departments who can assist us in obtaining these desperately needed funds. We look forward to working together with you to ensure the future of our community remains bright. So that's sort of where we landed for Mike to read as a shared common advocacy message to get us more support. It might change slightly, but that's where we are. Are we okay with this being read tomorrow? Knowing that we have support of our other units?
So point of privilege. So I think it's a testament to this community coming together that you have various groups united around supporting our children through advocacy for increased funding. Either way, even if there is a hiccup where not every group becomes a signatory of that before tomorrow night, I will be advocating a similar message. And just to clarify, the DOB does not have, as I said, the ability to provide us with more funding, but it does provide us with a platform where that last paragraph sums it up, that we are requesting of individuals who, or entities that do have the ability to provide us with additional funding, have an audience with us. And as you know, when you have more groups signing on to that, it probably catches the attention of those agencies that have the ability to provide that. I lost my train of thought there. I apologize. It's a testament to the community coming together for that. So it's a good thing to be a part of.
Yep. So thank you everyone for their efforts on this. I know that the PTA teams worked diligently to get this in front of their executive committees, and they will work further to get this in front of their entire membership, the efforts to move forward. So we'll have their support as well. And hopefully we're hoping to bring on, right now we're working with the HHA, but we're actually hoping to bring on our other units as well to be even, even a stronger message, so.
Yeah, without, keeping in line with not naming individual staff members at board meetings, I do want to thank the HHEA leadership, individuals from that took time out of their weekends to draft this, to work on drafting this letter as well with members of the PTA advocacy.
Yes, so thank you so much for your efforts on that. Okay. All right. I don't think we have to vote officially on this, just something so everyone's aware. All right.
No, it's not a resolution. It's
Okay, so that was it for me. Anything else? Can I have a motion to close the meeting?
Motion to close.
Second? All in favor? Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.